finally here. We're finally out of Mashima Hell, and we're in Togashi Heaven. Yay!
I want to go back. No, it's not that bad. No, it's not even bad. It's just like... I turned into the grumpy old anime grandpa. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened, but I hate everything now.
First you gave Promare the same score as Fairy Tail. Now you're going to tell me Yu Yu Hakusho's worse than Fairy Tail. And then we just can't... We'll have to end the podcast right there.
I also gave Cowboy Bebop and Tatami Galaxy the same score as Fairy Tail. Excuse me. Anyway, hello and welcome to the Nen Show Podcast. I am your grumpy old host, Craftsdwarf. And this is my co-host, Mathwiz. Say hello, Mathwiz.
I can finally stop being grumpy because we're not reading Fairy Tail anymore. Oh, well, actually, I mean, there will probably be a part where I'm a little grumpy in this reading, but after that...
Yes. I'm very...
I do think...
We're going. Yeah, after that. We're off to a great start.
You go.
We're off to a great
I'll
start.
get to it later.
No, I am looking forward to the discussion. Though parts of it were like, but I am also looking more forward to the next couple to read. Like, literally every reading after this one, because next is Dark Tournament, then it's Chapter Black, and presumably also Three Kings, so we're just going to be done with Yu Yu Hakusho in 3 episodes. And then we're on to Hunter x Hunter, which I'm much more looking for, because I guess that's my overall feelings on this stretch of chapter, is like, I know Togashi's a good storyteller. This is, like, baby Togashi, you know? He's not that yet.
As, I remember when I was doing my, I was, live tweeting when I was watching the anime, and I think it was the Hunter x Hunter 2011 Dick Writing Association who was like, this was the story where we got to see Togashi become Togashi.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing, is in this stretch, especially the actual, Shounen stuff, is okay. I didn't find it that... Because this is also the oldest series, we've done on the Nen Show so far. Like, before it was One Piece was the oldest one in 1997, with the second two oldest being, I think... Rave and Naruto were also both really late 90s. But this is 90... I think the reading ends in 91. So I was... Yeah, I was a baby.
To put this in I was going to say, to put this in perspective, because it was something I had looked into when I watched the anime. So, this up until about, the Dark Tournament-ish, the finale of that, was, all around the time of, when the Cell arc in Dragon Ball was being published.
Yeah. So completely different, landscape, and again, that's ground we haven't touched on, because we haven't done the old school block yet, so we haven't read, so we will be reading stuff older than this, but, not until after, Hunter x Hunter and, the one episode of Boruto, we're gonna do. So, yeah, it's definitely, different in a regard. And also, you tweeted about it, but Togashi was already having, his back problems, by, volume 6.
I remember it was, the first volume, there was one of the little things where he had said, oh, I don't have much time, so I'm kind of just gonna ramble here for, the volume inserts. And I'm like, oh, no, this is volume 1. But yeah, in the very first volume insert for, not the very first, but the insert for volume 6, he's like, yeah, production report number 1, health problems. There have been 3 or 4 crises so far. And I'm like, oh my god.
And see, that's Togashi. The thing that got me about it, is this was 1990-91. So I was born in May of 1991, so he's literally been having back problems, crippling, there was some, I saw a tweet recently of, from, because, authors do the Shonen Jump comments, and so now they're actually getting translated, consistently, so, and, 4 of Togashi's latest, for, we're talking about, man, it sucks not being able to get in my bed, because, he's been having these problems since I've been alive. I just joked about me being a grumpy old man. Togashi's been having serious back problems and health issues since I've been alive. That's... Jesus. This poor man. It does suck to barely get any Hunter x Hunter chapters in relation to, other series, but, at the same time, I can't fucking blame the dude whatsoever. Because some people do, oh, he's just lazy. He's just lying about that. No, why would... No.
I hate it when people say that anyone is just lazy because they don't put stuff out.
It's such a lazy it's criticism, too. Because it's, so ignorant of just, the work. Especially anime and manga, which are particularly brutal as far as, creative workplaces go. Not that it's, exclusive. Gamers have... Or game developers have crunch time that's been getting a lot of buzz lately. In general, it's... Any workplace is going to have its share of, back-breaking demands enforced on the workers, you know? Like, it's just capitalism, I guess. But anyway, so we've okay, maybe this is gonna be a really long discussion after all. We haven't even gotten started. So as per usual, when we start the off a new Nen Show series, we do respond to comments normally, but not on the first episode because there weren't any comments last time. So starting next episode, we will be looking at your comments for this episode, and we'll respond to some of them. But at first, we talk about our personal histories with the series and go over spoilers. So, because this is also going to be a little different in that we have actually both fully experienced this series before, in different, like, ways, though. So, go ahead. Why don't you explain your personal history? I know you have a long history with Togashi in general if you want to go into that, but what about your personal history with Yu Yu Hakusho?
Well, Yu Yu Hakusho, Okay, so there's going to be a recurring segment in the Yu Yu Hakusho podcast where we'll be like, here's how the anime did it.
Yes.
Because around, like, August of last year or so, I watched the Yu Yu Hakusho anime to completion. And, so, yeah, it's just interesting reading the manga and noticing, you know, differences. There was material in like the first 2 volumes that was just straight up cut from the anime, so there were like several chapters in here that I had never even known of before.
Yeah, I've heard
so that was
that.
interesting.
And also I guess another thing is because someone tweeted at us, maybe I'll link the thread because it was an interesting read. But basically the Viz translation takes a number of liberties, and especially in like, or at least they only mostly had the a fan translation to go off of because there was a fan translation of the last like 3 volumes and or so I believe, comparing that to Viz, and yeah, Viz took some liberties, and you know, there's also like the fucking issue. Like, I mean, this is less a translation issue with the sound effects though. Like they've just put giant sound effects.
Yeah, that's just bad. I mean, like I get that even in like the comparing like the Japanese screenshots that was in that thread, like you can see like Togashi does put his sound effects like, you know, kind of like in between the action sometimes, but it's not this big, bulky, bold text that just straight up blocks the thing. And it's like, oh, I made a joke in a tweet, like, oh, when you dodge the attack but get blindsided by the intrusive text.
Yeah, the fucking sound effect came and smacked him because you missed or whatever. Yeah, that's funny.
There was another one around like when Toguro, that fight is going on, and like the sound effect like completely blocks him. You don't even see him in the panel. It's just Yusuke going flying, and there's this big whack.
No, yeah. Though there's the thread also specified that like the translator's still working. He's doing Hunter x Hunter like now, but he's like, I guess the landscape has changed a lot. You know, just in general, like I think like I remember going to Barnes & Noble and seeing like, what? Aku no Hana? Like I've just been surprised at like the kind of things that are, like maybe I shouldn't be, but it's just like I'm just so like blind to the general like official releases that when I see like anything I'm like, what? They released this? And it's so, and also anime and manga for me, it's very much like an online thing. Like in person I only discuss it. So when I actually like see anime manga stuff in real life outside of like a convention, I'm always like, whoa. Even at the convention, it's just kind of like, whoa, look at all these people here who are all like the same thing, you know? But anyway, as I forget, yeah, so I'll definitely link that thread. And it also gives me an appreciation because there's a guy I follow on Twitter called Grant the Thief. He has been doing a long-ass series of threads where he's tweeting about One Piece, and like every chapter he tries to like point out a panel or something that's interesting. And one thing he's been highlighting is like the sound effect work, because they also redo the sound effects in One Piece, where like fan translators and stuff will usually just like try to translate the sound effects, like they'll put a little note like, oh, this is what this sound effect means. But you know, for these official translations that try to make it more appealing to Western, you know, casual viewers, like so they'll just redo the sound effects. So seeing how Yu Yu Hakusho does it, it makes me think about how like that thread and how One Piece, those guys. I mean, it was again like a few years, or no, actually, it would have been around the same time, and because this series was only getting like localized in, I think my acquisition. Yeah, like the first volume was released in 2003. So I don't know. So these series would have been these series would have been published at the same time, like One Piece, Naruto, Yu Yu Hakusho, like in the early 2000s. So Yeah.
What, you mean
not...
the characters in One Piece didn't always, speak in that pirate speak all the time? Seemed like a pretty faithful translation to me.
Okay, Mathwiz. So anyway, so my Yu Yu Hakusho history, it's been kind of infamous because for a while now, I've been memed on for having Yu Yu Hakusho at a 4 on my anime list, a 4 out of 10. And I'll go into why as we read, and a big part of that was the ending, which will be interesting to discuss because the anime changes quite a few things. But and hopefully, I appreciate it more rereading it, and I do actually appreciate it more. Like I right now, even though I'm not satisfied, I'd still probably give it a 5. So it's already looking up. We're already looking up.
Oh, all right, yes, already the optimism
yes.
creeping in.
But
maybe we can even get it to a 6.
Let's hope so. Can we match Fairy Tail? No. Can Togashi match the artistic highs of Hiromashima's Fairy? Okay, I'm done. So anyway, again, I am older, so like I've seen, like I remember watching some of Yu Yu Hakusho on Toonami. Like I missed a lot of the early stuff. I saw some of the dark. I mostly remember watching Chapter Black. I'm thinking about it right now, and I still have some of the visuals in my head. And I also remember being really mad because, like, they literally stopped showing it in that time slot in, like, a couple episodes before the arc ended. So I never finished the arc on TV because I didn't know when to watch it because I couldn't just go on the computer and just stream it or anything. It was, different times. And I didn't know how, even if I could. But I also owned my little brother does this thing where he like buys 1 or 2 volumes of a manga and then he'll never buy the rest. And so like these last few years since I have money, like usually for like Christmas and his birthday, which both happen in December, I just like buy the rest of the manga series. So any manga series he owns like to completion, it's because I bought it for him, like Dragon Ball, Death Note, Pokemon. But Yu Yu Hakusho was one. So we had volume 1 of this. And, there were times when I wasn't allowed to be on the computer or I should have been doing my homework, but I was already done. So I read stuff. I had Game Informers, I had manga volumes, and I had Yu Yu Hakusho Volume 1. So rereading this first volume was really weird because, like, I'd still, like, it was familiar because I'd read it so many times. But then once I hit Volume 2, I'm like, I don't remember this shit at all. And Volume 3, I started to remember more because I think I'd watched some of it. Or so it's just kind of weird how like in the first 3 volumes it goes like really familiar to what the fuck is this to oh hey I kind of recognize this and then it was kind of like that for the rest of the aside from that I read it a few. Let me check my anime list actually. When did I finish my reread of it? So I actually finished Yu Yu Hakusho on December 2013, so we're talking almost 6 years ago now that I read this manga and gave it the infamous 4 out of 10. So obviously my tastes have changed quite a bit since then, and I'm more able to, even if I don't like something, I'm able to appreciate what it's doing. Not that I dislike Yu Yu Hakusho, but it's just like I'm glad to be revisiting it finally, because there were definitely things to like. And anyway, so regarding spoilers, like, I don't have much to say regarding looking forward because it has been over 5 years since I've visited the material in any fashion. Like, I do remember some things, so, I don't know, Mathwiz, how do you feel about spoilers? Should we just, like, not...
I was not planning on, like, I might kind of say, like, oh, this is something that will come up later, but I don't plan on saying anything like directly, like, oh, here's the spoilers to the fight at the end of the manga or something.
Yeah. Like, I could talk about,
I'm not gonna do that.
Yusuke's whole character arc, because, like, between some personal vague memories and some of the things I saw in that thread, because the thread does go into, like, spoilers for, like, the last couple arcs, the Twitter thread that's gonna be linked. Actually, I'm gonna write it down that I'm linking it. Yeah, like, so I could make some things about, like, Yusuke's character arc, or at least that's only presumption because, again, I haven't experienced the later arcs in a while, so it's like, I can kind of see, like, because there's one thing about the ending, the last arc in specific, that, like, before it really frustrated me, but looking back, it's like, no, this might make sense for Yusuke's character, judging from the things I know now, and those, like, so it's like, it's like I could, but I don't also, like, I don't have a reason to because, like, I haven't experienced the material, so I'm only, like, vaguely guessing. So, I guess, like, yeah, I guess we'll just like avoid it at least for this reading. Like maybe because that's the other thing is like the arcs are more or less disconnected. I would say, right, Mathwiz? Like, or I'm trying to think.
Yeah, that's kind of a difference between like Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter, where at least in some of the arcs, Hunter x Hunter, they're definitely more connected. But whereas like Yu Yu Hakusho, it's kind of like finish one thing, okay, what's next, and then finish that thing.
Right. So it's like, you know, when these characters, like, because in the 100 exams, the time the characters show up, like, Illumi shows up. So, but we could, like, if we are talking about spoilers, we can say much more about that character because we know what happens, you know, in the election arc. So it's like there's a, you know, whereas with like how many, like there's characters, recurring characters, of course, but it's pretty much just the main cast and Toguro at the end who shows up in the Dark Tournament. So it's like, you know, none of the characters from those last arcs are here. There's maybe some world building stuff like there because there's some reveals with the demons in the last arc, but you know, it's not. Is it major? I don't know. So yeah, I guess we'll avoid spoilers, even though we have experienced the story. So Hunter x Hunter, we're probably not going to though. We're probably gonna be free to talk at least until the anime ends. You know, even though there is manga stuff after we both read. But most people have seen the anime, so I feel like a lot of people have. So anyway, actually getting into the reading. All right, we're here to discuss Yu Yu Hakusho. So starting off, Yusuke is our main character, and he fucking dies. Okay, thank you for listening. That's the end.
Yeah. First page, and the story's over.
Okay,
damn.
We've done. All right. So yeah.
Next time, Hunter x Hunter.
Next time, Hunter x Hunter. So yeah, first chapter introduces Yusuke, introduces the whole, you know, his basic characterization, and then the whole like it kind of like he dies, and then we see the events of the day leading up to his death. How did you feel about it in general?
I will say, and I feel like this holds up as well for the manga as it does for the first episode of the anime. I think Yu Yu Hakusho has like one of the best introductions in, at least like for like first chapter, first episode. I think it's like a really strong introduction, and this is what like immediately sort of hooked me when I first watched the anime, and I was like, oh, this is gonna, you know, it might have some, I don't know where it's gonna go, but it's gonna, you know, there's gonna be something to this, some substance here, because I don't know, just like the way everything is framed, and you know, you get to kind of go through like, it's a way, I don't know, the way Togashi frames things, and like, here's a character who literally the first page you met him, he's dead, but then we like, you know, figure out like the ins and outs of his life, and we kind of learn a little bit about his character,
everyone around him.
I don't know.
Like we see how
we see
him and how he fits into the world. You know.
Yes, and he has like this perspective of, oh, you know, even if I die, no one will really care. Like I can pass on, and you know, I'm done here. Like I have no regrets. But then you go through, you know, you see his mother, you see his, you see Keiko, his Kuwabara, not girlfriend yet, but Kuwabara. You get a little bit, and then you get the boy that he saved, and of course, I don't know. He's a kid, so Togashi writes him as like, oh, hey, we need to thank him when he's awake, and the mother's like, no, we can't do that. So it's all just like, maybe it's just like, you know, tugging at the heartstrings because like, oh, death is involved, but I think it's a really strong introduction, and I love it.
Yeah, because like, I guess how I'm not sure if Yusuke kind of just doesn't have a purpose to, you know, being alive, or as he sees it, but then he also doesn't, like, because that's, like, a big part of his character is he wants to be strong so that no one else, like, has to worry about him, because he doesn't like seeing people being, like, sad over him. And that's kind of what drives him to come back to life, because, you know, he doesn't like seeing all the people who are, like, because, he thought no one would care, but obviously people do. So, yeah, good start. Yeah. It's
just, like, I feel like that's a kind of story trope that's been done before, where it's, like, the character doesn't think anybody actually cares about him. But like it's a good story, so like it works.
Yeah.
Although of course it's not self-contained, because it is just the start to something more, because he's got to work to come back to life now. But you know, for an introduction, I thought it was good.
Yep. I mean,
one
honestly,
thing. Was it in the first chapter, or was it a little later? No, it was in the first chapter. A detail that I don't remember being mentioned in the anime.
Yes.
And some of this is going to be, I did watch the dub, but I have looked back at some of the sub to like, you know, because the dub, it was another time and place thing. It takes liberties just like the manga translation does. So I'm gonna, wherever I can, I'll kind of try to cross-reference with different.
Yeah, because that is the thing. It's like, because that Twitter thread mentioned that the anime in general cut things out, and then the dub took further liberties, and the manga is also iffy. So it's like there isn't really a close translation to the original. So we're just doing the best we can. Obviously, yeah. So if there's like a major misunderstanding we have, it's because we don't have anything else to work with. Like, I do think we'll try to read those the fan translated versions because it is a bit closer, and I'm curious. Or at least I hope we can. Like, they're available. But anyway, go on.
But yeah. Anyways, there was one line where, you know, Yusuke is just talking with Botan, and he mentioned. Sorry, there's vehicles around my house. I don't know how much the mic is picking up. Anyways, so Yusuke mentions that his mom is, you know, still young. She's 29 years old. Yusuke's 14, which would mean that, you know, his mother was 15, maybe even 14 when she was pregnant with him, which is just like, it's a really just throwaway detail, but it says the fact that it's included at all. It does, yeah. It gives like, you.
You know, she is relatively young, and like now she has to, you know, we see her grieving over her kid, and also like, you know, delinquents are typically going to come from like, you know, a rough household. So it's like, here you have a you know, young mother who probably had to drop out of school, had to get a job because there's no father around. But anyway, you know, yeah, it's a good detail. So it is a shame that was cut out. Because like that's the thing about anime characters is you could literally say they're any age and you just kind of have to like nod and go along with it. It doesn't fucking matter because they're not real, so they can do whatever the fuck they want. So, you know, you wouldn't know her age unless it was literally spelled out to you, and that age is important regarding to, like, why things the way they are. It's a good detail.
Yeah, because, like, even if it was just kind of vague, and it was just said, like, oh, she's, like, you could tell from, like, her character design and whatever that, like, you know, she's still young, but when it does give you that more specific, it gives you more of a stronger, more concrete idea of, like, how, I don't know, like, what sort of upbringing this would have, I don't know, and it just plays in with Yusuke's character, so it makes sense. It's just an interest, again, like, it's maybe more interesting to me, because I don't remember it being mentioned in the anime, so it was like, oh, I didn't know that.
Also, completely blindside, Botan is probably, like, Togashi's cutest girl, just throwing that out there. She's cute.
I mean, yeah, Togashi's he's got good character designs. I mean, like, it's really interesting looking back at some of this, like, you know, early Yu Yu Hakusho art, because I know later on the art will kind of, I mean, health issues, that'll happen, but also just, like, some of the Hunter x Hunter art that I've seen, it's just interesting seeing, like, how Togashi does his page layouts and stuff like that. Sometimes it gets a little confusing where, like, he'll have, like, a shot of a character, maybe not going over the whole page, but it's like, what's the sequence of events here? Because, like, he'll put the dialogue in, like, above and beside, and it's like, which way do I... But...
And it's another thing I thought about is, I mean, maybe I'd have to, like, think about the other series we've read more, but, like, or maybe it's also indicative of, like, the time period, but Togashi's especially, like, I feel like with the art of the other series we've read so far, they remain mostly consistent. Like, yeah, they have their, like, goofy comedy deformations and stuff, but, like, Togashi has those, but he also has, like, more, like, hyper detail moments, like, so it's like you have, like, a normal style, then you have, like, deformed, and then you have hyper detail. So it's like, and I feel like this is it's something that's always been in his work, but it's also, like, you can really, like, because people get criticized later, like, Hunter x Hunter chapters for having too much, like, not just too much text, like, he's always had, like, the translation mentioned he's always had a lot of text, but with Hunter, like, the infamous page from Hunter x Hunter where it's, like, there's two panels with, like, a character's head, and the rest of the page is just, like, panels of just text, like, so I feel like, and there's also the infamous Greed Island pages where it's like you have like hyper detailed Turkey and then scribbles of characters like dancing and partying. So it's like, I feel like that's always been a part of his style. It's like, where do I focus my time and energy on the detail, you know? And it makes the ones that the panels that have more detail, like, he's, you know, he really wants this one to get across in some, or it's more important in some way. So it's like, it was always kind of a part of his style, but I think his health issues kind of exacerbated the words, made it worse, you know, where it's like, so yeah, with that page, apparently the turkey was much more important than the character celebrating. So I don't know, it was just interesting to again go back and see a more healthy Togashi still having that aspect to its art, even though it's much more consistent overall, but at the same time it is very like I like again you have the normal and you have the hyper detailed, and that's something like again comparing to like the big three and stuff, it's a much more consistent overall. So it's just interesting comparison. So anyway, chapter 2. Okay, holy shit, we might have to split and do 4 episodes after all, because we might talk a lot. So anyway, Botan takes Yusuke to the spirit world to meet Koenma, and I double checked, and yeah, Ko literally means child, so he's basically and kid Enma, or I guess he even has the junior on his cap. So it's just like, as a kid I just never thought about it, and as an adult I'm like, wait, Enma, okay. So I should just oh no, he actually says it outright, never mind. I'm a stupid. But yeah, he meets Koenma and finds out about his test. And we see the flashback where he got sick and he didn't want Keiko to make that face, so he puts on a strong front. Good establishing of things. But yeah, it was weird, again, like I said, rereading Volume 1 for the billionth time, because it was all familiar, and so I was, like, part of me was, like, a little tired, because I had read it a lot. Like, I had that same issue with the early stretch of One Piece. Like, I love One Piece, but I've also seen the early stuff so many times that it's just, like, yeah, okay. So, but at the same time, this was also the stretch I think I enjoyed the most. Like, I enjoyed the spirit stuff, the most, I'd say. Out of this stretch. Oh yeah, and then there was the whole big thing about how Yusuke was gonna get cremated, and he goes to Keiko to try and rescue the body, but she arrives and his mom had already found out. So where does the anime just how does it, if it cuts out so much material, like where does it go? Like what? Because I remember there's the fire, the thing with the body potentially getting in the when the house got arsoned. I remember that.
Yeah, so I made sure to note this one down, so I had it exactly. So the first 2 volumes of the manga are adapted into 4.5 episodes in the anime. So basically what happens is chapter 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, and 16 are just cut entirely. I mean, so like
they do, or I'm skimming through. Okay, so they do when Yusuke possesses Kuwabara to talk to Keiko. And then they wait.
Okay, no. 3. So, yeah. So, like, the stuff with Yusuke possessing Kuwabara happens. The chapter with Kuwabara and, like, he has to not fight for a week or whatever.
That was a good one.
Because, like, that's an important establishing chapter for Kuwabara. But so you have, like, the temporary revival or whatever, where, like, he's back in his body for a day, and there's a 2-chapter conflict there. That gets cut, but when he does eventually like get revived for real, and it gets into the more like spirit detective stuff, yeah. There is the part where he's like, "Oh, you can see me. I can talk to people." So like some of the gags are kept in from that, but they're just like reworked. Another thing I thought was interesting, because you do kind of get the brief recurring character. Was it Sayaka? What was her name? The one little spirit girl.
Oh yes,
who
I think it was Sayaka. Let me double check, but I think you're correct.
But yeah, like she sticks around for a while. But like in the anime, she is like because her story was cut, her chapter.
Yeah.
But she still shows up. She's kind of just, they say that she's like a messenger for Koenma or something, or like some person who's just there to judge Yusuke on behalf of Koenma. So she still shows up in the anime, but she's not the same character
at all. Okay, that's weird. Interesting. Okay, and that is kind of a shame, because I do like the chapters they cut, because like they're basically there to like explore Yusuke's character, and I think they do a good job.
I personally I can see why some of them were cut.
Some of them for sure.
Like the one with the old man and the tanuki. Okay. Like I don't I don't really know what that adds to Yusuke specifically. Like,
It
not to
hurts
say
me
that
in
it's
the
a bad.
feels. Like, it's always hurt me in the feels for years. Like, I remember getting emotional about that chapter years ago, and then I read it this time. I was like, yeah, I've read it a million times, and then I'm like, I'm getting choked up by the end of the chapter. Like, fuck. Sorry, I had to say that because you brought it up.
No, yeah, it's not that it's a bad, little one-off chapter. But it's like in the grander scheme of the anime, like I guess they wanted to get to more of the action
more or
stuff
less, yeah.
quicker.
Well, because I think I've even heard that Togashi, like, because there's a thing with series that like they start out as their thing, and then I guess the idea is that they fail and they start not being popular enough, so they become a battle shonen, and then they become popular. I don't know how much weight that sentiment has, or if it's like true. Like I've only heard it. Like, I haven't heard it in years, by the way. But I remember Maho Sensei and Negima. It started as like a harem comedy thing, and then it becomes more a battle thing. But apparently, Togashi did this deliberately with Yu Hakusho, where it's like he deliberately wanted to do the non-kind of shonen stuff at first, and then go into the shonen stuff.
Yeah, it's
so I've heard.
It's interesting because like in the manga, the transition does feel pretty natural, but in the anime, it's kind of like, oh, I can see where like they just kind of, because they do cut so many of these chapters and kind of like combine conflicts in a way to like get to the action stuff and get Yusuke revived. It almost does feel like, I think I remember hearing like a rumor at some point that like, the readers were dissatisfied with so Togashi just changed it to an action manga, which apparently was not the case.
I don't have a source
but the
for
anime
any of this.
does kind of give that impression.
Because this is all like vague memories I've heard over the course of like the last few years. So but apparently it worked because Yu Hakusho is a really big deal. Like I think its volumes are still have a really high sales figures even relative to today. Though also digital sales today are or digital availability would affect sales in some ways. So,
but no, I could definitely see like if I could see credibility in that. Even if it is just a rumor that like Togashi had kind of planned action stuff from the start. Because, like, Yusuke is a delinquent, he gets into fights, Kuwabara gets into fights, so, like, action is very, even in some of the spirit stuff, like the temporary revival where he comes back for a day, there is, like, some action conflicts in there, so, even if it doesn't directly start out.
Even if it's not, like, a full-on battle manga yet.
Yes.
So, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I guess we'll talk about the episodic chapters now, because, like I said, I do think they do a good job with Yusuke's characterization. Like, the dog one with the kid who, like, Yusuke is annoyed by this kid who, because he's literally like the opposite of Yusuke. Yusuke wants to be strong, so nobody has to, feel bad for him or suffer, But this kid is like being weak, and it's leaving. Like the dog might never go to heaven because, like, he's hurting the dog because of. By being the opposite of Yusuke, so Yusuke kind of like he plays the villain. He does the Yusuke thing.
No, yeah, and it is an interesting look at Yusuke's character because he is willing to be the villain. Like, there are some things that come up later. Like there's a specific moment we'll get to later, but like Yusuke is not. Compare this to like a Naruto or maybe a My Hero Academia where like the protagonist is kind of like the moral center of the story in a way, and like they have the peace-loving ideals that the story tries to push forward. Yusuke is not necessarily that kind of character.
No, he's just a kid who, like I said, he doesn't necessarily have a reason to live, and he has to find one, more or less. So he's kind of he's a shithead. He's a little shit. Like, let's not one of the first thing, like, oh look, Keiko, his childhood, like the first thing he does is sexually assault her. Not a great dude. But,
there are some moments that it's like, oh, this is very like classic anime manga stuff. Which, I mean, like it still happens nowadays, so I don't want to say like it's gone away, but like just the groping because he's Yusuke.
Oh yeah, we could talk about the fun moment later. Oh god. But anyway, Yusuke toughens up the kid by basically telling him like, look, you're making this dog suffer by being weak, so you should be strong. And the kid's like, yeah, I'm gonna be strong, and he becomes strong. Good, good boys.
Yeah, and this was another one of those chapters that was cut from the anime, which, I mean, like, yeah, it is kind of disappointing because I liked this one more than I don't know, like the story with the old man didn't quite gravitate.
I'm gonna end you.
No,
No.
I'm not saying it's bad. It just wasn't the one I enjoyed the most. But I don't know. This one was neat. Trying to think, was there anything specifically as I flipped through the pages that like was.
But yeah, I guess for more contrasts, what did you think about the one after that with the girl who waits? Who she's like fucking. She's waiting. She's been waiting so long. She barely even realized she died. Like, for her boyfriend.
Yeah, I do think. Like, I was kind of getting to this earlier, and then I forgot to finish my thought. But like some of these chapters are interesting. And like the detail with Yusuke's mom too, like with her being a young mother. It's just interesting to not only like it showcases what kind of the characters are dealing with. But also, it's just interesting to see, like, what's going on in Togashi's headspace. Like, what's his sort of, like, view of the world. So, like, you see kind of, or, I don't know, view of how he views people and stuff. Because, like, obviously in this one, you know, she was waiting for this person, but then she died. She got sick and died, and so she couldn't be there to meet him. But it turns out he's actually just a piece of shit, and he was just, you know, manipulating her to see if. So, you know, he was bad, and she deserved better, and that's basically what Yusuke tells her. He's like, you deserve better, and then he takes her out for a night on the town, and it's just fun shenanigans. And I really like the one panel or the page rather, where it's just like them goofing off doing stuff. Like they see a movie, they're on like a roller coaster thing. But then there's just like one of Yusuke like sitting on top of a car with her, and he's got like the cat face, and it's just Togashi loves his cat boys. Like Killua will be in Hunter x Hunter.
Oh, that's right.
Yusuke
He does do
here.
that face. Forgot about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say Yusuke does the cat face a lot, and I mean Botan gets one later too. So I don't know, Togashi, he's a cat.
Togashi has a lot of fun with the expressions. Like there's the page at the end of that chapter where Yusuke does the spooky face and the guy has a like a scared face, and he's got a lot of variety. It's good.
But yeah, it is it is interesting to see, you know, how it reflects Yusuke's character, because he isn't, you know, it's not like he doesn't really care about appearances or whatever. He just kind of like does whatever will be the most effective thing, even if it does involve him playing the villain or being sort of aggressive and like, you need to do this thing because it will be good for you, and he just does it.
Well, like this girl died, and she's apologizing for being such her death because she wasn't able to see her boyfriend, who was just like she's only thinking about others. Where Yusuke does think about others, you know, to a point, but mostly because he doesn't want to be hurt. And like, and outside of that, he just like he just does whatever the fuck he wants. He plays video games. He's basically a hedonist, and so but he shows her a little fun and helps her think a bit more about herself instead of that piece of shit. So again, more good contrast.
Yeah, and I did like the part where, you know, again, to show that contrast, he's just like, they're just floating up in the sky above the city or whatever, and he's like, he's down there, give him a piece of your mind, and she's like, thanks for everything, and he's like, what?
Right, where earlier he was like trying, I guess it's kind of shadow boxing when he was like punching through his head because he was pissed off. But he's a ghost, he can't touch anything, so...
And it does kind of give it sort of like reflects, because, you know, the dynamic that Yusuke and Keiko have, because, I don't know, he is someone that cares about him, and he's like, why would you do that? Why would you manipulate them? That's not...
Yeah. But yeah, and then there's the Old Man Tanuki chapter, which Mathwiz hates, News at 11. Which, I don't know, like, I don't know about contrast, like, for Yusuke, but, like... It's just sweet. And Tanuki's cute. And like I said, it still somehow gets me emotional after God knows how many years, like 15 now, give or take. Like, and I didn't expect that at all. It just fucking hit me in the feels. I was reading it, it's like, yeah, I've read this before, and then boom, and I'm like, fuck.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is a sad story, because you've got, like, you got the grandpa who, like, his family died in an accident, and so he's just like alone, and he's in his final days, and he's just kind of dying alone. But then this Tanuki is there, and then he doesn't. He has someone, and it's good. The anime staff apparently didn't think so, though.
Dropped. I mean, like, because they could have done this as like an anthology episode where they just like quickly go through like a bunch of these, but maybe that they didn't like how that sounded or something, which is fair. Like or it could have been an OVA maybe where it, like if Yu Hakusho is being readapted and they didn't feel like adapting this into an actual, because like that's the thing is I feel like, you know, this is the kind of thing that would come later into the story, but there isn't necessarily enough later to do it. So I don't know, maybe it'd be an OVA or just they'd somehow move it to the end of the season. They
could have done it as like a filler episode where it's more just like a random in between arcs, random flashback to like, remember that one time that we didn't show it?
Remember the Tanuki? And then intersplice them with things that literally never happened just for it to fuck with people. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think it might also be that like, I don't remember, like, I don't think any of this stuff is really called back to it all. So like, them cutting it from the anime, like it's not like they're missing important context that like would, you know, a moment that gets brought up again later, as far as I'm aware. But then again, I've never read the manga, so maybe I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, maybe because like if something did come up later, it would be like that girl where it's like re-explained or just, you know, completely transformed, or it like they just remove it. Yeah. But I can't think of anything like. I'm pretty sure the Tanuki doesn't show up again. Maybe it does. I don't know. I don't, like I said, I haven't read that material. But even if he did, they would probably cut it out. So,
although, no, that's in a later arc. I'll bring that up later.
Okay, so anyway, next on to something that did get adapted into the anime. Well, first off, in the chapter with the Kuwabara having to do the test. I laughed at the cover page because it's like Keiko and she's looking cute and she's like, I'm not in this chapter. And it's like
because the first page is like, oh hey, there's Keiko, she seems to be doing fine, and then it's I'm not in this.
Nope. So that made me laugh. So anyway, yeah, the piece of shit rat teacher, the one Kuwabara's friends has a job and he's, you know, pressuring them and says, oh yeah, you guys got to do good on a test. And Kuwabara, he's a cool boy. You know, he's gonna do friendship, Nakama power. Never underestimate the power of friendship.
Kuwabara is a man's man. He's like, you know, he gets it like when the people challenge him to a fight. He's like, okay, you can beat me up, but I won't fight back. And it's like, damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
He's a good boy. But anyway, so there was also, okay, maybe I was just like reading too much into it. But because they give their test scores, and Yusuke is like, I did better than Kuwabara's 7%. I got 12% because I got good intuition. And so at the time, I assumed the joke was like, okay, if you do literally random on a multiple choice test, I mean, maybe the scores were counting more than that. But like, if you do,
well, I mean, it does say like in the next panel, it's like the science tests are mainly multiple choice, so it's my best subject, which does seem to imply that it could have just been guesswork.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing is like, if it was just guesswork, wouldn't it be closer to 25%? So maybe that was how I read the joke at first. Like, or Yusuke's just because as we find out later, like, maybe it was just testing spirit intuition or something. But like, because they're doing the test at Genkai, and Yusuke has horrible intuition, which I felt like fed into this joke because like, you know, he's literally doing, like, if you again, multiple choice should be closer to 25%. Yusuke's doing worse than that. So, which I also took to imply that Kuwabara is, like, because he has good intuition, but if he has a 7, that means he's actually kind of trying, even though he's not really trying. So
yeah, he's actually trying, but he's just dumb.
Yeah, he's just really right. So I thought that like I said, because maybe I'm just like oh, maybe it's not. It was just supposed to be spirit intuition, and well, because he also says it's mostly multiple choice. So the other score that he could also have a lower score because he's just doing poorly in the things that aren't multiple choice. So like it was just how I read the joke because I just thought it was interesting that like the later stuff recontextualizes this a bit and changes the joke a bit, which made it a little funnier to me. But yeah,
I don't think there's anything that like contradicts that reading, so I'd say that makes it funnier.
Okay, cool. I was wondering how you thought, or what you thought.
I do think it's also kind of interesting that some of these teachers are so just scummy. Like, it's like, oh, it's about our reputation and the reputation of the school, and we gotta get rid of the delinquents and public image and stuff.
Yeah, no.
So they're just like...
I do kind of want to read more, like, delinquent manga, because, like, delinquents, like, there were a lot of delinquents during, like, believe in, like, this, maybe 70s, 80s, like, I've seen pictures and shit, like, and there's a lot of delinquent manga, too, so I'm a bit curious as to, like, what, like, because I remember just seeing a comment or a post or stuff like that about, like, the general, like, why were there a lot of delinquents? What social things were happening in Japan that led to this, basically? So it's like this being such a common thing that, you know, so I just, that made me think, you know, this discussion made me think about that, so, but I don't really have something to say, but yeah, there's obviously a push against them, and they're always youths, so, I guess there is kind of that, like, underdog thing there, you know, with because now, as a delinquent, they're like, because, yeah, like, think about Yusuke again, like, why is he delinquent? Because, like, probably didn't have a great upbringing, you know, his mother was literally a teenager when, until Yusuke was, like, she would have been 19, and Yusuke would have been, like, 4, so, you know, probably not a great upbringing, and that's, so, but then they're looked down upon for, you know, environmental factors that they didn't have full control over, and yeah, so, you know, even if they are, like, they're not, like, Yusuke is not a great person, he can be a piece of shit, but, like, yeah, it's interesting to consider, and but I don't know the social, like, story there, so to speak, so,
yeah,
but I'm curious about it a little bit, and of course, there's also the cool teacher who sticks up for Yusuke, even though he also, you know, like, he was introduced hitting Yusuke in the back of the head, but he actually wants Yusuke to, like, the delinquents to be better, you know, where the other guys just, like, antagonize them, and, like, there's the other teacher with the glasses who's just
he's the shonen optimism person. He's there to be like, you know, I believe that you can improve and that you can be good, and everyone else is just like, no, we're going to get rid of you because you are you.
Yeah. And of course, it's satisfying when he points out, like, you know, the teacher changing Kuwabara's grade was honestly just as shitty as, like, almost getting a fight with someone. So, it was, yeah, or more shitty even. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, and Yusuke helping out, like, and, like, giving Kuwabara questions in his sleep and, like, scaring off guys who are about to go pick, you know, Yusuke's a good boy, even when he's not always a good boy.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting because he's like, they don't actually see him. They're just like, huh. I'm getting a creepy feeling about this.
But then Kuwabara, who does have the best, like, ghost sense, actually thanks him at the end because he's like, because I think he knows, right? Because I know he was possessed, but I forget if he actually knows. Or did Yusuke speak to him I think Yusuke spoke to him in a dream too, but he might have been spooked out by that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what that is, because, like, like, Botan says, like, you know, he can sense our presence, but he shouldn't know, like, we should be invisible and inaudible, so he shouldn't know who we are, but he does say thanks anyway, so, I don't know, maybe you could read that as, like, he knows it's Yusuke, or he just knows that there's something looking out for him, and he just...
Because, like, he definitely had, like, I guess it's a minor spoiler, but I'm pretty sure, like, they were watching one of the, like, the tapes, from Koenma, and Koenma even said, like, oh yeah, normal people can't see this, but then Kuwabara's sister comes in and is like, who's that baby? Or something like that. So,
yeah, in the anime, she walks in and she's just there the whole time the tape plays, and then so it's a lot more explicit that she caught it.
Well, I guess the joke would be, like, she would have been watching whatever dumb thing the normal people are supposed to see, but then at the end she's like, who's the baby? And they're like, wait, she was watching the whole time? Like,
yeah. It is kind of interesting because, you know, especially once it gets beyond once Yusuke gets revived, the way some of the side characters are used in the anime is different because, like, well, I guess I'll get more into the examples when we actually get to those arcs.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, where they're not there in the manga, the anime kind of finds a way to work them in.
Yeah, which is neat. So anyway, remember how I told you about how I only had Volume 1 and Volume 2 is a complete, like, blank to me, even though I did read it a few years ago, like, relative to Volume 1. So yeah, Volume 1 ends with a two-parter, but the second part is in Volume 2. So I really remember the start to this like, little tiny arc, but I don't remember, like, I didn't remember the finale really at all. So I just thought that was funny because like I'd reread this volume and I read this last chapter. Oh, that's it. Oh well. Okay. So yeah. But anyway, Yusuke has to go recharge his soul batteries. His mom's gone, and
yeah, there's also like more going on with it's weird because like Yusuke's mom sometimes shows up more in the anime where she didn't in the manga, but also like the specifics of like the cutaways where she's not around. Like it's hinted that she's got like ties to the Yakuza, and like that's how she gets Yusuke back into school. And
I forgot about
like,
that.
When their apartment burns down, and so she just like gets another one because of her ties to the Yakuza.
I forgot about that. That's so good.
So it's another just like really interesting detail.
Was that not in the anime, or
I don't remember how it's handled in the anime. But like obviously they get the new apartment and stuff, but I don't remember like, you know, like Yusuke getting back into school. I don't remember like her having to like go up to the principal
and
strong
arm him with fucking Yakuza thugs behind her.
No,
yeah.
I think that was only in the manga.
Okay, interesting. But anyway, Yusuke goes out. He immediately gets into a fight because he's Yusuke, I guess. Oh, it's a gag, but like there's the really short guy who comes up, Daisuke, and like Togashi does this another time later, I think after Yusuke revives, where it's like there's a delinquent character, like these characters are teenagers, so he writes on this guy's face like that he's 14 years old, like he has to specify that this is a child, even because I guess it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about how like you could literally just draw an anime character and put any age on there and everyone just has to like nod and go yeah, because like look at Monogatari, I think he's like a fucking 7-year-old vampire. And then there's a character from like Railgun who's like a teacher who's like in her 30s, but she looks like a tiny kid. Like it's just anime, so like I guess you gotta specify with this stuff kind of, because there's even the trope with like hot moms who like, oh wow, she's like middle aged but she looks really young and something like that, like the beautiful mom thing. And that's so by saying that she's 29, Togashi's kind of like, it could have been that, but she's not. So because she
I definitely think that like I don't know if it's a trope, but like the like high school or middle school like delinquent who looks like an adult or whatever, but they're actually like a teenager. Like I think I've seen that in I think it's in like, is it in Mob Psycho? Does that get brought up? I don't know, but there are like other stories where you have a character who's like, are they really in school? But yeah, they're 14 or 15 or whatever.
It's just like the blatantness of it, of the like, oh yeah, so because maybe I like to think, this is just completely off the top of my head, like maybe the editor was like, is this really a 14-year-old? And Togashi's like, scribble, 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 yes, like something stupid like that.
There are interesting, just like some of the things he does, like when like there will be little notes like Botan's hand, or a close up of Koenma's eye, or like the back of Principal's head, like just scribbled. Yeah,
which I imagine margins was like maybe he questioned it, or an assistant questioned it, or the editor questioned it, and they're like, "What is this?" And he's like, "I don't want to redraw." Because that's the thing is like with his, especially with his health going, like redrawing something is gonna like. That's a lot of effort, for, and he can only put out fucking 10 chapters a year nowadays. So it's like, by doing that, he just like, I guess it is kind of a concession, like obviously, ideally he wouldn't need to like put text on his things. Like, we've both done it in our videos before, but I also feel like if you have to put like text on screen clarifying something, that's kind of a failure of the script. So it's like, to apply that to manga is, if he has to like put an arrow and say this thing, then you could also say that's a failure of the manga. Though in some cases, like with character ages, like it's played with around so much, it makes sense to have to specify it sometimes, Yeah. So, I don't know. It's interesting.
I do like the little part where one of the bullies who show up before, before the adult-looking kid shows up, I know one of them's like trying to be like all weird with Keiko, and she just like slaps him, and it's like this blood flying, and like he loses a tooth, it looks like. So it's like, damn, She's brutal. Don't mess with Keiko.
Yeah, she can put up with Yusuke, so she's got like it's funny. Like her friends are like completely like normal and like, oh god, what's going on? But Keiko's, she's used to Yusuke, so she's tough. Because she beats him up. Okay, I mean, he doesn't fight her back because of course, obviously, he's not gonna fight a girl. But like she's capable of doing damage to like literally the toughest delinquent in the city. So it makes sense that she's tough on her own, even though she can't stand up to another tough guy like Daisuke, but she could beat a mook. So it's good. But yeah, she gets kidnapped. Yusuke finds out, and he goes in a disguise, which is like he's got a dumb mask, and they takes off the mask, and he's got
yeah.
What are you doing, you idiot? Oh yeah, and there's a weird like fake out thing where Keiko wakes up and she points at Yusuke, and he's like, "Oh no, she saw me," but there's a fire behind him, and then she puts out the fire and passes out. I was like, "What?" But then it turns out she did actually, or no, he carried her home, and she was kind of awake and heard things.
She wasn't actually unconscious, and she knew.
Yeah, like I like even on that page, like at the end she opens her eyes, but in the panel before that you see her doing the ellipse, the ... in one of the panels where he's just carrying her and talking, and she yeah. Also, one weird thing about like maybe it was just more common in I don't know, because Togashi like this isn't that, but it maybe there's a part later. So when Kuwabara comes in and sees Yusuke holding Keiko, there's like a panel that's like the current state of Kuwabara's mind, which is like there's like a girl on the beach, and then there's like a bomb hitting the ocean behind her, so it's like, oh, Yusuke's alive, but also what the fuck. But then like later he'll also like there'll be like sidebar panels of like, oh, look at this character, and like in one chapter there was just like a panel of like one panel of like a woman or something. Like it was also big, like almost like the layout was similar to this one with Kuwabara, but I'm pretty sure the panel with the girl was not like diegetic at all. So I don't know, sometimes he'll just fill space on the page with shit.
There'll just be like random I don't.
So that's kind of unusual, like, or at least like I haven't seen it. Maybe I don't read enough old manga, because I actually think about it. Yeah, I don't think I've read anything super old in a while, but it's definitely like I feel like the sidebar stuff is more common in other magazines, not Jump. But yeah. So I don't know. It's just again, this is the oldest series we've seen, so it's kind of interesting to see stuff like that. Just like I guess Tokashi's just like he takes those shortcuts, I suppose. Like I don't know what else to put on this page, so I'll just throw something in. Like the sidebar or something. So I don't know.
Because like sometimes it's like a little advertisement for a thing he's done, or it's like a character. But sometimes it'll just be random. Who's this? Like
he'll just draw something because he feels like it. So I guess it's not even like a laziness thing. I hate that word, but it's because he's still like drawing this thing. It just doesn't have anything to do with anything. So it's like okay.
One of the things that like really threw me off. Like an example of this where it wasn't like a sidebar, but it was just like a bottom panel thing, was like towards the end of our reading when it's like Toguro is there and they're like setting up the dark tournament, and then Karama and Hiei show up, and then there's just like a panel of a random like woman with like a blank background.
Yes. She
like,
come to the dark tournament too. Like you maybe. Oh god. Yeah, no, it's definitely a little weird, and I'm also because Togashi could do like some really like great detailed shit, but he also has the issues with his health that he can't do that all the time. So I'm kind of curious to seeing what happens to the art going forward, because he's like we said, he's already got the health issues at the end of this, like basically at the end of this stretch. So I'm afraid to say that this might be the most consistent art he'll have in his entire career. I really hope that's not the case. But,
I remember someone saying to me that it was more like around chapter Black when it really starts to.
What a trooper! He got through the whole dark tournament, but I think now that you mentioned, I do think I've heard that too. So anyway, there's another chapter. Oh yeah, see, I just realized we talked about the whole Keiko thing, and I'm trying to think like because it's it's things happening. I'm not sure like it's Yusuke getting a chance to be cool. And it is, I guess, being more of an action thing again, but I'm also like, but was there meaningful conflict or character exploration? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about these two. Like, I feel like this little side story was maybe the least interesting part of, like, the chapters that were cut.
Because then I think about it, I imagine it was, it was Togashi. Maybe he was told, or he wanted to just spice it up, like, again, because you did say, like, it doesn't come out of nowhere that it's an action series, But and here's this is one of the more action heavy segments of this first arc. I almost said the stretch, which isn't true at all. So yeah, it happens. Anyway, then there's that's right. There's another chapter with the kid, Shota, who had the dog, and then the spooky ghost girl who, and this becomes like a whole little arc with her because she becomes recurring for a bit.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting that a previous character got kind of re-referenced for this separate chapter. I mean, I doubt that Togashi had any plans for him to be like a main character or something, or like a recurring face, but it was just, I don't know, it was just neat. Again, because like it's a character who wasn't in the anime at all, so it's like,
they actually, well, it was, but not the character. The design was in the anime, I guess you could say.
Well, no, I mean like the boy.
Oh, the boy. Never mind. I thought you were talking about the girl. Sorry.
No. Oh yeah, and I like how his name is Shota, so his name is just boy.
Oh yeah, see this honestly, it might have made me like laugh the most in this stretch of chapters. I sent you the image because it's like during the Genkai selection tournament, there's literally a character named Penis who's a complete throwaway. Like his name is Chinpo, which means penis. So I just like I think I laughed because it's like, because it's Togashi. Like if Oda made a character named Penis, like, I've seen the SBS, he does dirty humor all the time, but this is Togashi.
Yeah, the way you had phrased it, yes. Where you were like, Hunter x Hunter, nihilism, and all this, like,
Togashi, deconstructor Shounen. I'm gonna make this character called Penis, like.
Yeah.
I just had to stop and laugh because, I don't know why I thought it was so funny. Oh God. Oh yeah, but this chapter also brings up something pretty important, because they mention the girl, she has a lot of power because she has so much like loneliness, and we get her backstory and stuff. Like she wants to be with someone so badly, she's able to she's keeping back Yusuke, and
yeah, she even does like a spirit blast looking thingy.
Yeah, even though she's just like a kid, and they even and yeah, that's right. It took Yusuke out for like a fucking day, a couple fucking days. So she's pretty strong. But yeah, she even mentions that Botan, that for a ghost, emotion is a source of power. So that's something to keep in mind, I guess, as we read, because they have their like strength levels and stuff, but ultimately spirit power is emotional, and there's one moment in particular that gets echoed with the end of the Dark Tournament with Yusuke, where he gets like a strength boost because he's having stronger emotions, so.
Oh yeah, no, that's a very relevant thing with Yusuke's character. Like even in these early arcs, there are some moments. Well, okay, maybe not the earliest, but like stuff we will get to in the podcast.
Yes, so just it's just a pretty notable setting detail that I will be keeping in mind, But anyway, they go back to the to Sayaka. And, that's right, because, her powers were from her loneliness. She tries it again, and she's not lonely anymore, so she doesn't have any powers. And then Yusuke just, scolds her and shit, and she becomes a normal little girl instead of a spooky little girl.
But she's all happy, because, she's like, oh, no one's ever scolded me before, or whatever. So, I don't know. She has people.
Well, she wanted a family, and the good and bad aspects of the family, like being with someone and having someone to tell you when you're wrong. And Yusuke and Shota offered that. So she calmed down, and she was eventually able to pass on. Though she sticks around for a while.
Yeah, I like how she was going to, and then Yusuke is like, "Well, hey, let's do some fun stuff." And Botan's like, "You idiot! We were about to get rid of her." And then she does stick around, so it's like, oh.
Anyway, then there's the chapter with the two girls who are competing to get into school, and only one of them can make it, so one of them fucking does some cursed shit. And how'd you think about this one? Because I imagine this one was also cut, right?
Yeah, and this was another one that it was like, I don't know. It didn't feel super necessary, but I guess it was fine. Like, it was another one of those, Yusuke's there, but he's not really, like, part of the solution of the conflict. Like, because when he goes to fight or whatever, he just gets, like, blasted off into space. So he's, like, not
pretty, like, he's mostly there as, like, a viewpoint for the conflict, almost.
But I'm trying to think of it as more of, like, what sort of ideas was it trying to get across, and how does that tie into the greater...
Well, because they do kind of, like, they decide to, you know, be friends, not rivals. Which, actually, I thought about more in relation to Hunter x Hunter, because, like, I think you've talked about it before, but, like, Gon and Killua, I guess they're kind of rivals because they do push each other, but they're not, like, angry rivals. They're not antagonistic rivals. They're friends first, you know? And the way this chapter resolved with the girls going in that route made me think about that, at least. See, like, even compare, like, Yusuke and Kuwabara. Like, it's funny, like, Hiei has the, like, rival character aesthetic, but Kuwabara is, like, the actual rival to Yusuke, you know, in that he wants to, like, you know, surpass him and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I guess we'll talk about your aesthetic character when we get to them, I imagine, right? I mean, I have, like they're gonna show up at the same time, I think. The two choices, like, my two guesses. And I'm like, but which is it? Which is the most aesthetic character? But yeah, you're right, because I didn't think about how, like, yeah, Yusuke is kind of barely relevant, or, like, he's basically just, like, a viewpoint. Like, he even gets, like, sent off to space because of the blast of, like, dark energy or something. And yeah, I guess that, yeah, it happens.
Moral of the story: don't curse your friends. But, like, I mean, like, it was interesting, I guess, that, like, the characters both had, like, different familial or, like, societal pressures that were, like, pitting them against each other, but at the end they were just kind of like, nah, who cares? We're just gonna do what we want because we're friends, and that's more important. And I guess that, I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry, I saw something else better.
You're checking Twitter during our podcast?
So what was the next chapter? It's there's, I guess, a chapter with like the whole Keiko Yusuke relationship. Like, because Sayaka's a little jealous.
And that's because she was a totally different character in the anime. It was kind of weird. Like, she's just there to judge their relationship, and it's like, okay.
So this part was adapted?
It was, but it was more of like their relationship was being judged, but it was kind of from the perspective of, like,
for Yusuke's soul egg, yeah.
Yeah.
But here
like
it's just like she's just a child who kind of like has a crush on this boy, and she's no. But then she's like, wait, or no, I guess maybe she had something for. Oh yeah, Yusuke has a family thing, or you know. But then she's like, well, yeah, but do you like Keiko, or does Keiko like you enough? And then it's like it makes more sense probably, because it's just a kid being silly.
Yeah, and here it's more of like a goofy, a kid just being silly and, you know, trying to be. Pretend to be more mature than they actually are because they're a kid, but it's cute and fun.
Oh, that's right. It leads into the arson thing too, where Keiko, you know, she's willing to, like, Yusuke is, you know, he's at his most weak right now. His body is literally just a soulless husk, pretty much. And so here's Keiko risking herself for his sake, doing the one thing he doesn't like.
The resolution to this is something that was kind of different in the anime.
Oh, okay.
So you know how he gets that, like, egg thing from Koenma early on?
Yeah, and the whole reason for the whole test, yeah.
Yes. So, like,
the whole test, yeah.
In the anime, like, in the manga, Koenma just kind of, like, clears a path, and it's like, that will cost you your virtue or something. And then like, Yusuke's like, I will give up my virtue for Keiko anytime, or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is,
so how does it resolve in the anime then?
In the anime, he's got that egg, and it's like, okay, this egg is what will bring you back to life, but to save Keiko, like, you can throw the egg, and it will clear a path, but as a result, you will not. So it's kind of like, if I'm remembering it correctly, it's like he was almost throwing away his ability to come back to life, but it was with the justification, which he also says in the manga, that, you know, what's the point if I come back to life if Keiko's not there? Like, if she's gone.
So it basically, like, changes it so, like, you kind of get the same thing, more or less, whereas, you know, Yusuke's thing is reset to 0, but it's like, in the anime, it seems even more meaningful because he might be throwing away his chance to come back entirely, you know?
But I think it does get resolved as like, oh, I was just testing your resolve, because like, oh, you actually do still get to come back, because obviously like he doesn't throw the egg and oh boom, he can't come back to life now. That sucks. Like obviously he still finds a way to come back to life. But it is interesting because the egg will come up again later in the manga.
Yes, it does.
Which is why it's like interesting that it gets brought up here, and then it almost feels like in the anime like that's the end of the egg, but it's not done. It was interesting.
Oh, okay, yeah. Wait, so the egg, he doesn't just get a new egg after this, or in the anime?
I don't exactly remember how it gets handled.
Because like I was thinking like, because my assumption was like, oh yeah, we were just testing you here, have a new egg, which it goes back to the same point that the manga's at, but with slightly different thing. Because like I guess, you know,
I was gonna say, if someone wants to correct me, leave a comment.
Yeah. Because I guess, like, assuming that's what happens, because it's weird that, because it would be weird if he just didn't, because, like, that's the thing, the egg, it hatches later, so it'd be weird if, like, oh, yeah, we gave you another egg, but we didn't tell you about it, so I'm assuming that's what happened, is they just gave him another one, like, after this, because, like, then you have, like, a fake-out thing, where it's like, oh, yeah, we were just lying, so it's, like, more emotional in the moment, but then maybe less satisfying retroactively, where how Togashi does it, it's like, he said, yeah, Yusuke's still gonna have the egg afterwards, so it's like, he doesn't try to fool the audience in that way, so it's, if that is the case, it's kind of interesting to see how, like, not necessarily, because I don't think either is particularly better or worse than the other, because it's more about the Mashima thing of like, do I want angry fan letters or not?
Yeah.
Because I feel like the way, assuming I am correct in my assumption, the way Togashi did it is probably going to have less angry fan letters, or the way the anime does it might have more angry fan letters, but it's more like impactful in the moment. So it's like, are you willing to compromise that, so to speak, or do you want to go for the higher emotional thing where you're being more manipulative, or do you want to get people pissed off because you are being more manipulative, so that's interesting.
And then I think the mechanics of how Keiko's hair gets cut are different too, because like obviously in the manga, Koenma's all cryptic and he's like, oh, I have to take something from her as well, and Yusuke's like, no, don't, but it's just her hair, whereas I think her hair just kind of gets like singed in the fire, and so like it just gets trimmed up,
which is what you normally would expect, but instead it was like he does do a kind of a fake out thing where it's but with Yusuke, like Yusuke's the one, Koenma was like spooking Yusuke, and she lost something important, and it's just her Koenma was just being a dick.
Okay, yeah, so I did queue up the anime episode, and so yeah, like it was, if you use this egg you won't come back to life. I'm just trying to figure out how it gets resolved, what the explanation is. I think Koenma just comes back and like explains like, oh yeah, it was just a test, but I don't know if they mention the egg.
So he does still have the egg at the end or something, or
also, speaking of the anime, Koenma is voiced by Luffy, which is just interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me, so or in you listen to the dub, right?
Well, yeah, I did watch the dub, but I do have like the sub here as well, so I'm kind of like, obviously in the dub he's not voiced by Luffy, but in the sub he is, and that's interesting.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think Koenma just does give him another egg, or it's like the same egg. I don't know exactly how it works, because I see here he like holds up
of these,
because like he does hold up like an egg. So maybe it's just like a new spirit animal, and theoretically he killed the one. I don't know.
Which is kind of sad.
Yeah, because it's just like Koenma's like, I'll keep this egg for now. I don't understand.
Okay. All right. Anyway, there's oh, that's right. This was another one that probably doesn't come up later. Where so yeah, basically Koenma, they basically came to a decision about Yusuke because they were like trying to, because apparently even the Buddha doesn't understand Yusuke. But yeah, they decided, the spirit people decided that Yusuke's sort of nature isn't best explored through him being dead, because he's so like impulsive and active.
He's so impulsive and unpredictable that like it's like we might as well bring him back to life and just judge him then.
Right, and especially like there's also the thing with like, yeah, he's not gonna be able to come back for 50 years if we don't do this literally right now. So plot convenience. Who cares? But yeah, but then he's also like doing a thing where he's possessing a wimpy kid who wants to be a strong boxer. And that happens, I guess. I don't know. I didn't have much to feel about the boxing one. I guess it's more action.
Me neither really. It almost, especially like after the chapter with And maybe I'm again biased because in the anime, the chapter with like the fire and Keiko goes right into the chapter where he gets brought back to life. Like it's adapted in the same episode. So here it's almost weird that it gets broken up with this boxing chapter, and it's like I don't really like. I mean, I guess it gives some insight into, like earlier insight into Yusuke's character, but I'm also like coming at this from the perspective of I'm already familiar with where Yusuke's character arc will go.
Yes.
So I can't take as much away from the earlier chapters because like, yes, it's more establishment for his character, but if I already know his
exactly who he
his
is,
character has already been established to me, so it's like extra. So maybe there's more to take away from it. If we've got any first-time readers in the comments, say what you thought. I don't know.
And yeah, I didn't have much to say, like, again, with my, contrast points with the boxer. Because, like, it's a kind of, like, innocuous, simple, like, thing, but it's all, there's also the really important, hey, Yusuke, you need someone to kiss you. Like, there's like, Kuwabara, like, had a horrifying dream where he had to kiss Yusuke. So it's like, you got, like, the super important thing with Yusuke, oh my god, is he gonna come back to life or not? And then right after the boxer stuff, which is like, if that happened. So...
There's another interesting alteration compared to what was shown in the anime, because you do get a cut to Yusuke's mom. In the anime, she's, I think, just straight up not around. She's away again doing something else. Whereas in the manga, you see that she's, like, drunk and going on, like, a rager or whatever. And Botan is like, oh, well, then she'll pass out eventually in that state. And Yusuke's like, no, she's done this before. She's gone on for, like, days or whatever. Which is another just, like, interesting little tidbit.
Yep. But anyway, Keiko is successful. She kisses Yusuke at literally the last possible second. And he gets up. And he's alive. He's back. The boy is back. He's not a ghost boy. Now Hakusho is over for real. Because, no.
I don't know. Maybe it's just anime pacing, which is weird because, like, it was at more the back end of that episode with the fire and stuff. I don't know, it just felt like less dramatically drawn out in the manga, but I guess that's just how manga pacing feels reading it as opposed to watching it. Because it just, like, cuts around to the characters, and it's like, oh, they're busy, or Keiko does this thing, but then Keiko can go. I don't know. Weird nitpick from me. But I do like how afterwards, in, like, the next chapter or whatever, Yusuke is like... Keiko's going around acting like normal, and Yusuke was like, did that mean nothing to her? What? Maybe it was just maybe it wasn't actually like a kiss to her or whatever. So there's still that little like, ooh,
the doubts. Yep. But anyway, Yusuke he's bumming around alive again, and that's right. There's like the glasses dude who is bullying or harassing Kuwabara. Like there's a kitty.
Oh yeah, we just had Gajeel in Fairy Tail. Now we got Kuwabara. He's another cat man.
Yep. But not your aesthetic character, apparently.
No.
But anyway, yeah, it turns out that there was a little demon possessing a dude and harassing children. And Botan's like, hey, you'd be a good Underworld detective, even though the title of the manga is Spirit Detective. I'm gonna use Spirit Detective.
No, yeah, because it's weird for me seeing some of the manga translations. Like in the anime, it's just Spirit Detective, not like Underworld Detective or whatever. Obviously, his Reiki, the spirit gun is just like energy blast thing. But no, in the manga they just Reiki. They don't translate it, or if they do, they add like a translator's note, and it's like.
But anyway, Yusuke, he's back to school. Everyone hates him again. It's more or less back to normal, though there are some slight changes. Like the teacher who hit him on the back of the head before, just slaps him with like a folder or something, so he's softer. And then Keiko, she's got a haircut, but that's right, the teacher with the glasses tries to frame Yusuke for stealing a pen, but he Konma comes in and is like, hey, you can use this lens that literally, like, does it ever come up again?
No, these magic items that get introduced early on are weird in that they really aren't relevant again. Like, they show up and they are used, I guess, when they are introduced, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, like, he gets, like, a spirit detector thing that kind of, it works in, like, the arc when he's trying to find the 3 people who stole the treasures, But then later on during Maze Castle, it just fucking explodes because like, wow, this guy's really strong. Or no, it was the Genkai selection because wow, that demon's really strong. It doesn't even work. So it's like, okay, sure. And also they're numbered, but I think I only remember the two right now, the lens and the detector. So yeah, the spirit
there's
items.
more, but they're not really relevant.
Yeah,
that is a thing, like a recurring aspect of this manga is like some things will be introduced and they're relevant for a bit and then they just kind of go away, which like it's just, I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing because like if the story doesn't need it, don't keep using it, but it's just interesting comparing it to like Hunter x Hunter and seeing how like when Hunter x Hunter, well, never mind. I won't.
He's really good with Hunter x Hunter. He's really good about introducing things and coming back to him later. Like I do really like how Nen is sort of like very slow, like kind of slowly introduced and explored, you know?
Yeah.
Where it shows up in the first arc, but you don't know what it is. Then the basics are explored, and then you see in York New, you see like what the actual power is like. Like I'm pretty sure it includes at least one person of every sort of type of power to show like, oh, this is what these kind of abilities are like, you know? So it's like it's cool.
This is where I feel like they're. Like, earlier, I had said that, like, one thing you had mentioned about, like, action being sort of integrated. I could see how, you know, maybe he had planned it out from the beginning. But then, like, comparing it to Hunter again, it does kind of seem to be... Because, like, with Hunter x Hunter, it seemed like he was more careful in constructing an action setting. And, like, these are the mechanics I'm going to use for an action story. And he carries that forward pretty well. Whereas in Yu Yu Hakusho, like, spirit energy... It's kind of, I mean, like, it has defining things to it, like emotion being relevant and stuff. But it's less defined, and it's more kind of abstract. So there's a lot more of, like, the characters will have a power-up for the arc, and they will use it. And then it's like, okay, we have to find what the next big power-up is. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but, again, like, comparing it to Hunter x Hunter, it's just, I find it less interesting.
Yeah.
Like, it seems more...
Like, you thought... Well, because you were talking about how how Togashi changed genres a bit, and it's like how it starts. Like you can almost see it like with this chapter. Like there's the action stuff, but he also like the spirit tools. So it's like maybe there's going to be actual detective work. There isn't.
Yeah. It could. I think maybe. I guess the best way to say it would be like Togashi maybe learning lessons from writing Yu Yu Hakusho and then implementing that in Hunter x Hunter, which is that's just a mark of a good author. Like learn from your mistakes in a previous work and improve on them.
I mean, I remember being curious about like Samurai 8 because I was like, because my comparison is like Naruto is baby Kishimoto, so and what is it gonna do next? And I talked about how like this stretch of chapters was very much baby Togashi. So he's definitely evolved a lot as a creator, even if his health doesn't want him to. So his poor body is trying to kill him.
Yeah, he's definitely not a robot like Hiro Mashima, where he's just built for manga.
Mashima on art, Togashi on writing, dream team. Like, cause Mashima can draw like a motherfucker, like that son of a bitch is doing a crossover series alongside Eden Zero and doing the roughs, the storyboard basically for Fairy Tail Century Quest. Like, what the little fuck is this man? He's a robot. After doing already 90 volumes of long-running manga, so what is this man? Togashi's barely done Hunter x Hunter's 30, Yu Yu Hakusho was like 18. So
yeah, compared to that is interesting to put in perspective because obviously the big three, they were all at least like 70 volumes or more. Or wait, no, that's not exactly. I don't think that's quite accurate. But they were all up there, at least 60 volumes or more.
You're correct. No.
Oh, I was right.
Naruto and Bleach were both set over 70.
Okay. So and then like Mashima, maybe not individually, but collectively, Mashima's done over 90, and then Togashi is nowhere near that as far as quantity.
Because Mashima's also done Eden Zero and Monster Soul, and if you count those, he's done more manga volumes than Oda, even though Oda's been going for slightly longer as a manga author, and Togashi's been going longer than all of them, and the poor dude only has 50 something volumes now, because of his goddamn health. So Jesus, fucking Mashima, he has the most manga of all the people we've read. That piece of shit. I love it. Like, I think I lamented that too, where he's this manga making machine, but he does make my least favorite. Okay, I don't know, my score for Yu Hakusho, current score for Yu Hakusho aside, relative to my current score for Fairy Tail. Like, I connect to Mashima as a creator, but like his works are my least favorite of the ones we've read so far by and large. But he also makes the most manga, so it's like, motherfucker. But anyway, I am curious about reading Age Zero to see if he's improved any. But or more rather. Anyway, back to the discussion. Yusuke has his mission, and like he's like, man, how can I pick these people out of the crowd? And then we literally get the title page with like the most conspicuous people ever.
Yeah.
Like, he is fucking tiny, and the demon and little like the big dude is huge, and he has horns out of his head. Like, could it be? Yusuke asks, like, could it be them? Like, no. No, it's probably someone else.
Oh, that is right. And before he goes to find them, he like Koenma teaches him how to use his spirit gun, which I actually got it wrong earlier. It's translated as ray gun, which I don't know if that's meant to be like a play on words, like ray gun and like spirit laser thing.
Yeah. Huh.
So
I didn't
maybe
think about that, because I had that thought, but I never thought like, oh yeah, maybe he was doing it intentionally. Because if so, then they're definitely translating it like as accurately as possible.
Because that was kind of the only reason I could think to translate it as ray gun, like if it was a play on words. But otherwise, in like I remember in the dub, it's just like Reiki is just like spirit energy, and it's spirit gun, so it's all.
They're doing the more literal translation when actually being untranslated kind of keeps the puns. So, because that's the thing, it's a pun that works in English. Like, so, that's kind of interesting.
I don't actually have since I only have the first physical volume of Yu Yu Hakusho. And then I was looking at stuff online. I know at like the back of the volume it had Japanese cultural notes in it, but I don't know if any of the other volumes had that because maybe the online thing I was reading didn't include those. For some reason, but I'm not sure if maybe it was just a first volume thing, because I was feel like maybe
from the first volume, but I have to go. I'd have to check because I completely skipped by it if they were there.
Because I was gonna say if for some reason like the other volumes did have that, maybe it would explain like, hey, this is why it's called the ray gun, because I don't know.
Yeah, like I did the Kodansha release wasn't perfect, like Albereth Empire, but like I did like how they explain that kind of stuff, and they actually like because I've also read their release for Holic and Tsubasa Resurrect Chronicle, which have a lot of references to other Clamp works, so they don't not only talk about some of their translations and stuff, but they also like, hey, this is a reference to this Clamp manga, so it's like stuff I might not have caught otherwise. So it's neat to see that kind of stuff.
I'm generally not super high on translators' notes. Like, I feel like if there is a way to translate it more literally, just do it literally. But in the case of like character names, like if there's something relevant about the name, like in the first volume there's like a translation for Botan's name, being like a type of flower or just literally button or something. Kuwabara's there in there too. Well, so like there are certain things where like a translator's note might be, it's like useful information, because like if I watch an anime and I know the name of a character and I don't necessarily know like what the connotations of that name would be, that's a little less than I know about the character, which sometimes that's not super necessary to the story, but sometimes it is relevant.
Yeah, well, because like names are definitely like ideally deliberate, and they should carry some kind of meaning, especially with Japanese also has kanji, and which can like parents do put like, oh, you can write it this way, but it's read like this, so it's like they do think about that kind of thing. But like the other issue is names are an identifier, and you'll kind of get this issue. Like I remember there's like a tweet going around where it's like, oh, people who call it Boku no Hero Academia are pirates, which is like but cataloging sites also use the the Japanese name, like My Animalist. If you want to, so it's like, if identifiers are kind of important for like discussing and like looking up information about a thing, because if you don't know what to call it, like social media that has issues with tags, like, okay, if you want to do a post about like a tweet about Hero Academia, you only have so many like character counts. So are you gonna say Boku no Hero Academia, My Hero Academia, Hero Aka, Macadamia, like what how many characters are you gonna use in your tweet of like only 200 or so to just tag what you're going to talk about? Like, so there is that kind of issue, like Hoseki no Kuni or Land of the Lustrous. So there's stuff like that too that also comes to mind regarding names. So I don't know. Names and character names too, like is it Katakuri? Yeah, that seems to have stuck because Manga Stream tried to do the literal translation and just call him Dogtooth because it's a kind of flower, which is what he's named after. But it's like, oh yeah, Charlotte Dogtooth. Nah, that didn't stick at all. So nice try, guys. I don't know what I'm talking about at this point. Anyway, so oh yeah, that's right. I did. So yeah, the Dark Treasures. Have you know about the 3 sacred regalia, or they're actually like items that are supposed to be mythical? In Japan? Yeah, these are the Dark Regalia. Like there's a sword, a gem, and a shield, or a mirror rather. Like I also kind of remember them because Kizaru's attacks from One Piece are named after these 3 sacred regalia. So, but these are like they're called the Dark Treasures. So they're supposed to be like the opposite of that. So like, cause yeah, Goki has the orb, which is like a gem. Kurama has the mirror, and Hiei has the sword. So it's like they're supposed to be dark reflections of these actual mythical treasures. So
okay.
Yep. Because I thought about it while reading, and I'm like, hey, wait, I kind of recognize these, and I check, and I'm like, yeah, they're dark versions of that. So. This is one of those things that like a Kodansha release would have like explained in the translator notes probably. So at least for, like maybe not with, because they didn't do as much with Fairy Tail, maybe because there was less like Japanese stuff to translate. But for their Clamp stuff, I was definitely like feel like they would have explained that. Maybe different translators too, who felt different things were important. But anyway, they got their treasures. They have 1 week to get them back, or Enma is gonna be pissed. And then we see the group. So I guess I'm asking because we're finalizing Hiei and Kurama. Which one of them is your aesthetic character? Because I know it's one of them.
Well, the true answer would be both. But right. if we were just to go off of the manga art at this point, see, because like in the anime, Kurama gets some really like super aesthetic shots in episodes, like episode 7. It's a Shinbo thing where like his entire scene is like bathed in this like red sunlight, and it looks with amazing. Or huh? Well, Kurama.
Okay, that makes sense.
With the stuff. Well, it's not the mirror scene, but it's like when he's talking to Yusuke, they like go out on the roof, and it's just like bathed in sunlight. Whereas in the manga, they just like have a conversation in the hallway or something, and there's nothing aesthetic about it. So far, I guess like if we're going by manga art. Like if I exclusively the manga, it might be just more leaning Hiei at this point because
he's so tiny.
He's tiny and he's edgy and he's cute and he's good. He's a good boy. But like maybe Kurama will get some aesthetic panels later and make up for it. But for right now, I guess going just by the manga, purely by the I don't know. It also kind of depends because. When I did like my aesthetic rankings earlier, it's a matter of like, okay, well, who's the more interesting character versus who has the more interesting aesthetic? So like, I definitely think Hiei is a more interesting character, but I don't know.
Going by this stretch, I would agree. So yeah, like,
but aesthetic wise, if the manga can capture Kurama's aesthetic like it was presented in the anime, maybe.
All right, it's interesting. The answer to the question is depends on anime or manga. So, but I guess, like I said, we'll see going forward too, because they both get their moments in the Dark Tournament for sure. So anyway, now that they got the treasures, Kurama's gonna bail. Yusuke comes in and has a fight with Goki, where he gets his ass beat.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that this translation from Viz has some, you know how we had the rave-isms, well now we've got Yu Yu Hakusho-isms, because you've got, like when, what's-his-face transforms into the big demon Oni thing, Yusuke's like, holy cheese on rye! And there's a lot of that, where people are just like, holy cheese, or something. And it's just like,
That's pretty insane in the membrane.
Oh my god. There's the one where they go to the arcade later. It's like, what the ding dong? It's like, Viz.
I wish the 90s stayed in the 90s. dead, but instead like, well, because because I guess Yu Hakusho's, it's a contemporary work, so I believe it's supposed to take place in the 90s, where Rave was aping off that sort of hip hop thing. So I guess they both kind of make sense, but it's still kind of like didn't age well.
Oh yeah, I guess I never really thought about it from that, like, as like not a period piece, but like, like just a sign of like the times it was made in, maybe.
Yeah. But anyway, Yusuke, like, he gets beaten up, but he immediately gets back up. It's because he wants to because the Goki ate souls, and
it's like they have about 1 day or whatever until they get digested, and he's like, well, I don't have time to waste.
Also, he gets another device, one that increases the power of his spirit gun, but it takes up more energy when he uses it.
I don't know if that ever comes up again after this point.
Yeah, he just kind of uses it.
Which is, it's interesting too, because when he first fought him, he had already used his spirit gun on the teacher dude, so he couldn't even use it. So it is strange that the item is even mentioned at all, because he didn't use it before, so it's not like he used it and it didn't work, and so he needed a more powerful. I don't know. If it was an item that was more relevant later, maybe it would matter.
Yeah, because I reckon he has it on his finger later. But it's just kind of like using it, and the energy requirement, like, I remember it becoming a thing, really. Because after the Goku fight, because he uses his smart boy brain to, oh yeah, your outside's pretty durable, so I'll just shoot you on the inside, and then he kills him. And then he's like tired as he's going back and he runs into Kurama. That's kind of about it. Like, it's happened, again, like, that's the thing, is like most of the fights that I remember, like, there's some, like, with Toguro, and the one with, or Toguro in general has some things. I don't know about the fight again, but, and then the end of the Genkai selection, that last fight there, I was like, oh, look, there's the theme. But, like, with, Goki and Hiei, he's just kind of, like, yeah, Yusuke uses his brain. Like, Hiei does have some general stuff to talk about, but, it's interesting to, like, because I'm always trying to find, like, what was the conflict of this fight in service of, what's the idea here? But I didn't get that out of quite a few of the encounters. Like, it's just fighting, so I don't know, maybe you feel differently.
Well, I know that, like, Togashi definitely in these early chapters, it was prevalent that he likes to do a sort of last minute twist to his fights, and in some cases it's a cool twist, and it's sort of like baked in character details, and sometimes it's just pure dumb luck, like when Yusuke fires his ray gun, his spirit gun, and he's like, I didn't know if it was going to bounce off the mirror. I just had to hope it would work. And it did. So there's like some strategy to it, but it's also, it's not the same as, Hunter x Hunter, where like the powers reflect the characters and limitations are based on that and whatever. And there can be.
Yes.
But we'll talk more about that when we get to. The luck
thing was also considered. Yeah. And because there's one fight in particular, I'm not sure if I'd say it's bothered me, but it definitely wasn't satisfying, with where the luck helped Yusuke and stuff. Like, in general, the Genkai selection had multiple instances of it, and I wouldn't say, like, I had much meaningful to take from it, so we'll talk about that, though. But anyway, Yusuke bumps into Kurama, like, explains the deal, and...
that's right. In the Goki fight, there were 2 kids involved, which, again, I probably don't even need to bring this up, but the anime did it differently, so I feel obligated. So in the anime, it's just one kid. Like, in the beginning, like, he steals a soul from a girl or whatever in a playground, and then they go to the forest, and then, like, a witness shows up, and it feels kind of extra. Whereas in the anime, it's just the witness kid in the forest. Like, that's, his soul gets stolen, Yusuke beats up Goki, and then he gets his soul back.
Yusuke is a friend of children.
Yeah, it was just interesting that Togashi had, like, the extra character when it didn't really feel necessary. But... Again, that's only because I've seen the anime, and the anime did it differently.
But anyway, Kurama, he was born to a human mother after some shenanigans, and he did come to care for her. So he's gonna use the mirror, and give her health, even though that'll cost him his life. And so Yusuke steps in to make sure, because Kurama is like willingly throwing away his life for his mom, and when Yusuke like he saw his mother grieving, so of course he's gonna be like, no, I'll sacrifice some of myself too, and everything turns out fine because.
And then it's only afterwards when Yusuke's like, oh wait, but then I would have just done the same thing to my mom, so why did I do that? But of course it's not something he thinks of in the moment. He just acts impulsively.
Yes, because he's a dummy. But anyway, then we get to Hiei, and he's so small and angry. Like, even when he's looking edgy and shit, like, part of me just wants to laugh because I know how tiny he is. Like, I mean, also his establishing page was he was like literally half of Goki's height, and Goki's huge, but so it's even more like exaggerated. But even then, he's really short. Like, there's also like he's shorter than Keiko. Like, it looks like I'm looking at this cover page of chapter 23, and Keiko's on the ground, and she still looks a bit taller than him. And even with his, like, he's just so small.
I'm curious to see how consistent Togashi will be with Hiei's height, because, like, I'm just remembering Krillin in the manga, like, especially as the characters get older, like, sometimes his height would sort of change depending on which character he was paired up against. Like, sometimes he's only as tall as, like, young Gohan, whereas otherwise he's, like, about chest-ish height to, full-grown Goku or whatever.
That's fair, yeah. So I didn't think about that, but yeah, because that's general a thing. Like, authors will exaggerate the sizes of certain things for like visual effect. So, yeah, he's so tiny.
No, but yeah, I like to compare Hiei to Killua as like, wait, let me make sure I get the order right. So Hiei is he's a soft, edgy boy, whereas Killua is an edgy, soft boy. Because, like, Hiei, his core personality is, like, he's always like, meh, I hate you, I'm the best, whatever. But then he's always, like, I don't know, you can get through the exterior, and you can get to the heart. Whereas, like, Killua, he was raised in, like, by a family of assassins. So, like, he's got the edgy exterior, I don't know.
No, well, it's, like, the edginess, he's normal, like, I think the,
Hiei's edgier than Killua, like, he's more serious and whatever, and brooding. Yeah.
Well, because, like I'd say definitely Killua is, like, normally kind of, like, soft, but then he's got the edgy, like, when he draws out, because, especially the scene on the airship, he's talking to Gon, and they're, like, cool, and he's like, oh, yeah, my parents are assassins, and then two guys come by, so
you have to draw the edginess out of Killua, whereas with Hiei, you have to draw the softness out.
The soft boy out of him, yes. Well, because I have been thinking about this, because, Kurapika, he looks like he's got big eyes. He looks kind of like a woman almost in some way, and so does Kurama. Like, they're both pretty boys. Because I've heard it mentioned somewhere that, like, Togashi with his four main protagonists of Hunter x Hunter, he's kind of like, he is being reflective of his characters from Yu Hakusho, in some ways. But like with Kurapika and Kurama, like, yeah, I mean, they're both, and like we've established with those two, and then Killua and Hiei. Not 100% sure about Yusuke and Gon and
I mean, like, they definitely
Leorio.
do have similar traits, because, like, Kuwabara and Leorio are both the good boys who try hard, and they fight for their friends.
And I think also, I'm trying to remember if, like, did Kuwabara have any pervy moments? Because I know Yusuke has.
Maybe not yet. I mean, like, we know he swoons over Yukina.
Right. I'm not that that's a big aspect of Leorio's character, but like Yusuke is more like, that's the thing that like stops me on it, is that like you think about Yusuke and Gon, they seem pretty different from my memory, but maybe
they're both like the stubborn dumbasses who kind of like will do it, but Gon is more like polite. Whereas Yusuke is just a straight up delinquent. Like, Gon is more ignorant because he grew up on an island, and so he doesn't like know people. Whereas Yusuke, he knows that like people can be deceptive and whatever, and like he's always looking out for, I don't know how to describe it.
Yusuke is kind of a dumbass when it comes to maybe not that, but it's like he's definitely like, he's got his thing with Keiko, like, where Gon's like, he understands, like he puts on a fucking great date, but then he also doesn't care. Like, he's just like, yeah. Which I've always thought was an interesting little detail regards to his archetype. But I don't know.
Yeah. So like, I definitely think Yusuke and Gon, like, out of the main four, I think are like the least similar, even though they do have similarities.
Right.
Which is not even, like, I know we've talked about with previous authors too, like, especially with Mashima, like, certain characters would maybe look similar to other characters in Rave from Fairy Tail, or they would kind of have similar-ish moments, like Gray, the thing with like Ultier, and how that was kind of similar to the thing with, or was it Ultier?
Yes.
Similar to Reina and Musica.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's not. I don't know. I definitely think Togashi as well doesn't really have that problem where the characters feel like carbon copies of each other, and it's like, oh, he's very clearly just stealing his own ideas. There's enough evolution to make it still interesting, and I think it's fun to draw the comparisons while also because I did a couple thematic breakdown videos where it's like comparing similar characters but pointing out the differences. So I like to do that. I like to find the similarities, but also, obviously consider how they're different, and just especially when it's with the same author, seeing how they do things similarly and differently.
Because of these 4 characters, I definitely think the Hiei Killua one is the most because again, you have the flip of the soft and edgy, and that's fun. But anyway, yeah, Hiei is being edgy. His whole thing is trust. So he's pissed off that his allies Goki fucking died, and Kurama walked out. So Hiei's alone again, even though he made tried to make some kind of, even if it was just for business, he made a connection. And nope, it's gone. So he's pissed off. But
that is interesting. That is it. Yeah, because I didn't think about that initially. But yeah, because Kurama just kind of walks out on him, and
it also factors into at least what he's doing, because he's using the sword to control people. So he's basically he doesn't want, you can't betray him if you're literally a slave to. So he's got the kind of Doflamingo thing going on a bit. And then he also takes Keiko, kind of taking away, someone who Yusuke, likes. So,
I think a recurring thing that's going to happen with this podcast is because, with the character arcs in Yu Yu Hakusho, some of them are a little more, the development is slower and more subtle, over the course of the entire series. So I think when I watched the anime, I wasn't entirely sure of, what the character arcs exactly
were. If you don't know where it's going, you might not notice details until, rewatching it, or and especially with a long series like Yu Yu Hakusho, I believe you got through it relatively quickly, more quickly than you're going through Do Re Mi.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Which I actually don't mind, because I'm trying to keep pace with you, and I have other things too. But anyway, yeah, it's easy to forget the smaller details that come up earlier because you don't recognize them as important.
Yeah.
So I think that's so you know where the character arcs go, but yeah, you hadn't connected Hiei becoming, because that's the big thing in the Maze Castle is he's oh, why don't I just betray you? And Yusuke's no, you're gonna be our friend, and he is fine, and so you saw the trust thing there.
But that's a more in Maze Castle, that's more of an obvious I can see that's a character moment there for him.
It's such a big change.
But the little thing with Hiei showing up and Kurama leaving him, and Hiei kind of having a moment where he's I'm just gonna make an army of people so they don't. Which I hadn't considered from a betrayal aspect.
Yeah,
and trust.
Right, which it's totally fitting to his character, but yeah, it's a little detail you hadn't thought about. So yeah, it's good. But yeah, I mean the conflict is there, but it also again, this is baby Togashi, so it doesn't really factor into the fight any, because how does Yusuke win? He wins through some strategy and luck. It doesn't fit the concept. I mean, well, he does get saved by Kurama, so at least, so it's not it's not there, but I don't know. I've just seen stuff where it's it fits more into it, and so I want to see the fight where all the elements work together, instead of just some of them. So oh well.
I do think it's also kind of interesting with how this fight ends, where okay, so another one of the anime didn't quite do it the same way. So here, when Yusuke fires the blast, he kind of has to scuttle around along the wall to line Hiei up for the shot properly. So he's still kind of being a little clumsy with it. And so Hiei lectures him for a bit, and then he gets shot in the back. But then when he falls, Yusuke puts his boot up and just kicks him in the face on the way down, which that didn't happen in the anime either. Which is, it just adds a little more personality to the ending, because Yusuke's just I'm gonna kick you while you're down.
Oh, yeah.
Add insult to injury, which is a very Yusuke thing to do.
True. But yep, Yusuke recovered the treasures. Enmo is still mad, but not as mad, because at the end of the day, he did have them. And then it basically goes it literally goes like right into the next arc because we see Yusuke there, and then it kind of flashes back to why he's there. So yeah. Oh yeah. I guess. So as far as like arc rankings go, I did think it was fitting to. So basically, this chapter technically, or this stretch of chapters, honestly had like you could call it like 5 arcs, where you have like Spirit Yusuke, then you have the Stark treasures, and now we have Genkai Selection. Then there's Mei's Castle, and then there's like the Yukina Rescue, which goes in. So, but how we're considering it is, I'm considering like we just finished like the Spirit Detective stuff, where you have Spirit and then you have Detective. Just because I didn't want to split them up. And then next we're going to have Genkai Selection, then Mei's Castle, and I'm considering the Rescue like the sort of lead into Dark Tournament. So,
yeah, because
so
I guess you kind of could treat the Yukina stuff as like its own arc, but it's not. There's not much there, and the Dark Tournament kind of takes those ideas and does a little more with them. So it's
right. So it's like
makes sense to do it that way.
Even if it is separate, like because like one of my distinctions for arcs has always been thinking about like different like does it have its own like antagonist and like beginning and ending. So like going back to One Piece, Jaya and Punk Hazard are their own arcs because you have Bellamy and you have Caesar. So even though they lead into Skypiea and Dressrosa, Skypiea has Eneru and Dressrosa has Doflamingo. Or compare that to Water 7 and Enies Lobby. They're in different locations, but they have the same antagonist, CP9. So it's like there's no real beginning and end to what. Well, there's a beginning to Water 7, but there's no real end. Like, does it end when they leave the island? Does it end when they're on Rocket Man? So it's like, does it end when they get to Enies Lobby? Like, it just goes straight into the next arc in a different way. Like, so that's kind of so in this case, like, yeah, you could consider the Yukina Rescue its own separate thing, but it's so short. It's like why bother? So my reasonings are kind of arbitrary, but it's for our ease in ranking the arcs. So, but anyway, so we find out the deal with the Genkai Selection is that a demon is trying to get close to Genkai because he wants to learn. He's been getting a bunch of like spirit arts from all these masters, and he's really strong.
By the way, Rando. I like how the demon is just Rando, like that's just his name.
So some randos going after to introduce more characters, so he's just with the names. He just kind of like, fuck it, I'm gonna name this one Penis. So, and yeah, Rando. Like maybe it has a meaning in Japanese, but it's also like one letter away from random, so it's just some fuck off demon, I guess, who's also really strong. Yeah. But yeah, this is the arc that kind of opens up the world, I guess. Like, because now it turns out, like, this is where, we got, like, spirit arts and spirit training, and, it's also interesting because Yusuke is, like, relatively new to the whole thing, but he's also really strong. Like, he wins the tournament. So, but yeah, Kuwabara is also there, because,
he's there for advice. That doesn't matter, because even later there's, like, a little note, which is just, like, he was here for advice. What did he want? Because it quickly just becomes irrelevant.
Right. He's just here to get him into the spirit shit, basically.
Because, once Yusuke gets there, he's got to compete with Yusuke, so that's all that matters to him. I also like the little panel where, like, Botan has to bribe Yusuke to get into the Genkai thing, and she's like, oh, here's this ticket for mixed martial arts in the Tokyo Dome. And there's, like, Yusuke's tongue is, like, reaching out as a hand to, like, grab the ticket.
Because he's like, I want it! Yep. But anyway, oh yeah, there's a bit where like some guys are like, yeah, we know spirits, how can you not train us? And Genkai's like, yeah, the fact that you didn't see the rant get, well, because it's like it was a supposed quote unquote random, but really it's like you had to be able to sense spirit stuff. It had potential for it to actually see it, and so they're pissed. And Genkai, she's tiny old master who's really strong. Gotta love that. I mean, she doesn't buff up like Roshi does, but we only get glimpses of her power in this arc.
This might still carry over in okay, and some of this is also like dubisms, because when I watched the anime, many people told me that like, no, watch the dub, because like the dub, it kind of like, there are certain context things it changes, but it does kind of add more personality to the thing. So, like, Genkai is very sassy and, like, very savage. She's always, like, very bitter and sarcastic, and so she gets into a lot of banter with Yusuke and stuff. So, that might still carry over in the manga. But yeah,
it's probably
she's
more,
just...
there in the in the anime, like especially if they lean into that aspect, because like I wouldn't say it's not there, because they at least she has a bit of that towards Yusuke. Like I'm not sure if it goes back and forth, but like yeah.
I like the one part though where Yusuke says something about like old hag, and she's like, "That's Master Old Hag to you." I don't know. Genkai is a good character. She's fun.
Yeah, I'm curious. I know she gets a lot more focus in the next arc, but I'm fuzzy on it because I haven't touched it in a while. That'll be an interesting one because you've already said your thoughts, general thoughts on it. So
yeah, Dark Tournament will be an interesting episode.
The best tournament ever in any shonen
in
apparently.
all of anime.
Yeah. Although I think, which will also be interesting because shit, I just realized like this Genkai selection arc is literally the first straight tournament arc we've had on the Nen Show, because like Naruto has it they had like the preliminaries and the tuning exams after phase 2, and then they had the tournament that didn't actually get finished, and that like 8 bracket tournament was like the most standard one, but like it didn't finish. I mean, maybe it kind of did if you see it as like, oh, Sasuke versus Gaara, then Naruto versus Gaara, but it didn't officially finish. And then like One Piece has the Corridor Coliseum, which is just a fucking all-out free-for-all, and again it like kind of doesn't, well, it basically ends, but it also shit was happening, so it got like overshadowed by the rest of the arc.
It was a plot device rather than the plot.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas this arc, Fairy Tail, Bleach, and Rave didn't have any at all, and Fairy Tail had the Grand Magic Games, which also finished, but also wasn't a straight tournament. Like it was just a bunch of like games, and there were the 1-on-1s and the 2-on-2s and stuff, but it wasn't like a bracket tournament. Like, it's probably Dragon Ball that like codified that for me. But when I think about tournament, I think the entry bracket, the brackets you go through, single elimination, like that's a tournament to me, And so this is this is the first time on the Nen Show we've actually had an arc where it's just straight up a tournament. Like, yeah, there's an undergoing plot, but it also happens to like go through the tournament, like because the guys, he wants to win the tournament, and Genkai doesn't. She's just gonna train anyone, even if they're an evil demon. So yeah, I just had that. I remember I had that thought, and I'm just like, oh god. Even though tournaments, they're like the most shonen thing, but we haven't done one yet, and this is our 6th series.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I do like Togashi showing his hand early. With like the first phase is an arcade, and it's like we've got these different games. So already like that'll be a recurring thing in Togashi's mangas. There's some sort of game influence.
Yes.
And even though like in this case it's
which actually does
early 90s, so it's like what do Testroid
that's right,
I can't even
arcades
words.
were...
What do Tetris and asteroids measure? And it's like nothing. They're just for fun. So it's
no, you reminded me because around this time period, arcades were really popular. Like they're still more popular in Japan today than they are in America today by a long shot. Like fighting games, especially. Or at least fighting games is what I know about because you got the competitive scenes and stuff, Evo and such. But because I hadn't thought about that, because like also around this time period, like because you mentioned something about like games, I think in a private, on Discord, just a message. But like, and I thought about because one thing, especially going into a future arc that it has an even more like heavily, non-battle driven conflict.
Were you talking about the tweet that I did the one time where I was like, yes, Togashi video games?
Maybe it was that. Maybe, or maybe it was. Yeah, maybe it was a tweet. But just like because Super High Wolf in his video on non-battle shonen, or series that are like or non-battle battle series, where characters are having conflicts without actually fighting. Like Food Wars is about cooking battles, and one thing he pointed out regarding like the history of those kind of things is he points out JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which has like part 3 has a gambling part and then a video game part where they're like also stand battles. So he mentions that as part of the history, but then there's also, I don't know which like again came first, but yeah, there's also the one that comes later with the arc that again we're kind of being iffy on spoilers, but so yeah, but this isn't really a battles. It's just they just use games as measuring, but it is interesting to see how like the popularity of arcades, because as I understand it, Togashi also like. You don't come away from Greed Island and think that this guy doesn't like games, like video games or traditional games or otherwise. Like Greed Island is definitely like an arc where like I feel like Togashi puts his love, and I think he like really likes Dragon Quest or something like that. I forget what he likes. You know, it's funny how all the creators, like, they have their different games that they like. Like, Mashima likes Final Fantasy, and he did the Monster Hunter manga, so I assume he likes Monster Hunter. And, Miura of Berserk likes Idolmaster, infamously. Because he's, like, the dark, edgy manga, like, Berserk. All the horrible shit happens. But no, he likes Idolmaster, which is cute girls dancing on stage. And yeah, Togashi, I think it's Dragon Quest. But anyway, so yeah, then there's these first tests are pretty quick. Then there's like one where they have to go through the forest, which is got some traps and spooky shit and monsters. I do like how there's the bit where she's like, "Okay, time for the fourth test." I didn't think of one, so give me a minute.
Yeah.
I didn't think this many of you would make it this far.
It was also just like a good end of volume sort of like cliffhanger, where it's just like, wow. Well, more of a gag than a cliffhanger, I guess. Oh yeah, and since so much material was cut from the anime, like a lot of those earlier chapters, and then there's even chapter 45, which we haven't gotten to yet, that gets cut as well.
Okay. Huh.
So, but it still it still almost does the sort of like 2-to-1 ratio, because like we read 51 chapters here, that takes like 25, 26 episodes. Okay. But because they cut like like at least a whole volume of material, the pacing does get a little like they drag it out a bit and kind of add some fluff in there. Like when Yusuke fights the bat guy, it's just a gag in the manga. Like he's just this weird looking character, but they like changed.
But it's probably a bit more.
They like changed the character design and made it more dramatic and stuff. So,
gotcha. So they make it more like a big old shonen fight instead of like, oh, he's fighting Batman.
Yeah.
Right. So okay. That's interesting. I'm curious because from Super Wolf's video on Yu Yu Hakusho even says like the first like 30 or so episodes aren't as good as what comes after. So like reading the manga, it's like I hope I like the later material, but I'm also especially curious about the Three Kings because that apparently changes a lot in the anime. So I'm curious as to see what
I'll be curious to read it, because obviously I've seen the animated version, so I don't know what the anime changed.
Yep.
And I get one last bit, because we're getting to the fighting part. When Yusuke has his fight, obviously one of his vices is he smokes. Well, he's 14. In the anime they can't show that. So instead of, and it kind of ruins it a bit for me, the way the anime does it, because in the anime, like, Genkai smokes a cigarette because she's an adult, so she can do it. We can show that.
So Yusuke steals the cigarette, basically?
Well, like, he says something to like piss her off, and so she throws it at him, and he dodges, and it goes into the thing, and then he picks it up later, like he does in the fight. But in the manga, because it's his vice. And he comments on that, like, the pickpocketing and the smoking. It's like stuff that factors into this fight.
He wins for being a piece of shit. Yeah.
So it's a character detail, which is another thing that like that's a thing Togashi does. Like character details will sometimes influence fights and like the outcome of a fight. So with it just being something kind of random in the anime where it's not his vice, it's not his thing. So like there's a degree of like chance to it, but it's also like he's influencing that luck with his own personality, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. But before that, there's like the Kuwabara fight, which is like Kuwabara gets beat up, and then he makes the sword and he wins. Like,
I'm Kuwabara and I've got a sword. Have you ever seen the dub? Do you know?
No,
Kuwabara's?
I have, but like. Literally, like you were even younger than me, so like, because this what you I would have been like shit. When was the dub airing on Toonami? When we answer that question, we'll find out how. I don't even think I saw this specific arc in the anime. Like maybe I did, because I did. I remember some of it because like I have some images flashing in my head, but I probably didn't see all because I don't remember like the bat stuff at all. So.
But yeah, Chris Sabat's Kuwabara is very, it's the most...
I know the voice, yes.
Distinct, I guess, of the character voices.
I like the voice, like, that's, I agree. That's, like, even having not heard it majorly in so long, like, Kuwabara's voice is definitely the most one that sticks in my head. Like, not that the others don't, but it's, like, it's the one I feel the most clearly, is what I'm trying to say.
Next time, Mathwiz does the whole podcast in the Kuwabara voice.
Oh god, that would be amazing and horrible. I'll do Yusuke or something. I'll just have to no, I don't know. But yeah, I don't have much to say about most of the fights. Like, again, I'm trying to read into things. Like, I feel like the Yusuke wins through his vices. The other guy, I don't know if I'd call the vices a weakness, but like, because the other guy's like, he's trying to, he fought blindly so that he wouldn't have that as a weakness, and now he's in his element, I guess.
I did also think it was kind of interesting when Togashi did his, like the 8 characters, the guy who is actually Rando is like kind of the least significant on the page. Like he shares a panel with another guy and he's kind of in the background. He gets like a little offhand line of dialogue. Whereas some of the characters, it's like, here's their name, here's their background, here's they're big important.
Yeah, Rando's just a rando.
Yeah.
But anyway, all the fights just like they happen. Like Yusuke gets like another fight immediately after where he fights the bald guy. How did you feel about this fight, actually?
It's, I don't know. Like, I personally do kind of like the twist at the end because it was like, it's another thing where like Togashi sets it up at the very beginning of the fight offhandedly. Like Yusuke gets like stuck in something and then he gets hit by an attack, and then like way later at the end he just falls into a bog or whatever and happens to dodge the attack by pure coincidence. And then the guy gets blown up by his own attack, which is, I like it. But I know you said one of the twists you didn't like, and I'm wondering if it's this one.
Well, because like it also sets up the rando stuff later, but I didn't recognize that it was set up before, so that would have like impacted my enjoyment of it. Because like, yeah, he basically just wins through dumb luck instead of like strategy. Because like, yeah, there is a lot of luck.
Yeah, there's even a part where he's like, "It's up to you now, Kuwabara. I'm gonna go lose this and take this guy out with me because I have no other options." Which maybe it's
because I was also... Or go on.
I was gonna say maybe it's like a self-sacrifice thing, but like I don't know how that's relevant to the rest of the arc because like he was willing to go down with this other guy, but then he didn't because he got, it's like his willingness to sacrifice himself allowed him to get lucky and just slip into the accidentally dodge the attack. But
which
again,
also like because the last conflict is very blatant about what it's doing thematically, and reading that idea into the rest of the arc, I'm not sure. Like, so I don't know. Did I go back and rethink it? Like, nah, I can't. I don't think so. But I also can't think of anything major. But yeah, I guess what I was thinking about regarding to the luck thing is like, because I with One Piece, the biggest one probably is like Luffy and Crocodile the second round, where Luffy spits up the water and it comes back down and keeps him from dying. Or even before that, when he gets saved by Robin, like you call that luck. But like, I guess where that doesn't bother me, where this kind of does, is like, with this, the luck allowed Yusuke to win. Like, yeah, it was set up, but it's like, it just happens and Yusuke wins. Whereas with Luffy, like, the luck saves his life. Yeah, I guess there's a difference between luck, keep making you win and luck keeping you from losing. Because like, yeah, because Luffy gets up and he has to win on his own still. Like, he, beats up Crocodile with, like, he's finally taking it seriously. He grows as a character,
Whereas, like, Yusuke, if he hadn't happened to get lucky and dodge the attack, he would have lost.
Right. Whereas if Luffy had been unlucky and the water missed him, then he just, like, there wouldn't have been another fight in at all, So it's like, the character action is more important in that Luffy example compared to this Yusuke example, so for me it's less satisfying because of that, because I do like character actions, and and I'm also fine with luck, because like that's the thing is like luck is basically causality, fate, destiny, and One Piece has very deliberate things to say about those, where with Yu Yu Hakusho I don't have that yet, so it's like, am I supposed to take something from Yusuke being lucky, because it also happened with Amir. He wasn't sure, like, he came up with the plan in the heat of the moment, but, like, he guessed that Hiei would dodge, and Hiei happened to dodge in the right way. So Yusuke was also lucky there, but,
yeah.
I don't, what do I take from that aside from that Yusuke's lucky? I don't know yet, if there's anything, might have just been, Togashi wanted to be convenient, or, well, no, he could have written a different way if he wanted to, so, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure if... Like, I don't want to say that early Yu Yu Hakusho doesn't set up ideas and themes for later, because it does, but, like, as far as the arcs early on being more, like, thematically cohesive or dense, I'm not so sure if they are. Like, I do think Yu Yu Hakusho gets off to a bit of a slow start, and, Like, I definitely think the later material is the better material of Yu Yu Hakusho.
That's what I'm hoping for, because I do like that kind of integration, because again, thinking about the main thing with the rant. So like, I guess that's like, okay, there's the Kuwabara fighting him first, and I'm trying to remember if anything noteworthy happened there.
I don't know. He played some baseball, dodged some attacks, and then he got shrunk and crushed.
Yes, which of course builds into the it sets up the actual his abilities for the actual last fight. But so I guess we could talk. Okay, so I guess we'll talk about the final fight, and then I'll talk about my thing with the integration, because I like reading into the themes, and because it is satisfying to me, and I like it when I see things connect to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So what'd you think about the rando battle?
I'm trying to think. I don't know. I think, again, I find it kind of interesting because for me, it's just with how much, especially coming off of it's not even just like a Mashima thing, but it's prevalent in a lot of shonen where battles are often won by characters pulling out hidden reserves of strength they never knew that they had, and a big ultimate attack or something. You keep punching them until they stay down. But in some of these Yu Yu Hakusho fights, Yusuke winning by pure chance, to me I find that interesting as opposed to Yusuke just punching the guy really, really hard until eventually he wins or something. And then again with the rando fight, it's more that again he gets lucky again because he gets the moss in his ears or whatever, and so he doesn't hear the curse, and he just kind of collapses on him because he's got no energy, and he elbow drops him and he destroys him.
Because that was the thing, because the luck happened again. It was set up again, because the bog was set up in the previous fight that he used to slip behind and then get the seaweed in his ears. But at least because Genkai basically spells the conflict out, which is also again, I also realized how common this conflict was at the time, because I feel I don't know why it's so common, but so with Dragon Ball, Goku's the one who trains, Vegeta trains. Frieza hasn't trained at all until literally Battle of F. Cell gets power by absorbing the androids. Boo gets power by absorbing other people. So it's and then Jojo does it too. Dio as a vampire gets more power from draining blood, where Jonathan learns Hamon. So these series at the same times we're going through the same idea that you have in the Rando fight, where Rando's relying on an outside power source. He's stealing. He's not working for these abilities. He's stealing them. So he doesn't know all of their strengths and weaknesses. Mm-hmm. So, because the weakness kind of comes out of nowhere, but it's at least meaningful, because if the curse has nowhere to go, it'll go rebound back at you, and Yusuke couldn't hear it. So
so it's kind of resolved by Yusuke using all the energy that he possesses to the point where he has nothing left, whereas the other guy is stealing stuff, and it ends up backfiring on him.
Right, because the whole point of it is to train. That's why Yusuke's here. He wants to find a master to train under, and Rando, that's not what he's here for at all. He doesn't want to train and put in the effort and, better himself. He just wants to steal. So, and again, going back to the integration, I don't, does that necessarily feed into the other fights, really? A lot of them were also, being trained and getting, or they, had, expertise and stuff. So, yeah, that's, because I do like it when that core theme factors into the whole arc, so to speak. And I just, again, maybe people are gonna be you're just thinking about the themes, which I've gotten, and it's fair, because I do like to think about talking. It's interesting. I'm interested in it right now. I'm sorry, but I with Fairy Tail, I got some interesting comments explaining things I hadn't considered. So I'm hoping I get the same here. Just you don't have to be mean about it. I just want to learn. So
see, I think that there's a way that conflicts can be individually interesting on their own, but then also collectively interesting, and how all the things sort of connect to each other. And I definitely agree with you that in this earlier stretch of Yu Yu Hakusho, individually I might find things to be interesting, but collectively is where I don't think it quite measures up to some of the other things because
I have the same issue with Maze Castle, where it's or the, I don't know, or Four Beasts or whatever you want to call it, where like yeah the fights, there's some that there's maybe one or two that are individually interesting, but collectively it's like, is there something, because I think like honestly like I normally jack off One Piece all the time, but I want to reread it, but like I think the series that's the best with doing this might be Bleach, because I only noticed it a bit, but I feel like because I like how it has like the characters' personal themes, and then it has the arc theme, and he'll usually like he'll sometimes play them both off of each other. Like Kurasuchi's about perfection, Ikaku was luck, Kenpachi was pride, Ichigo understanding. So like he'll have these main character themes play into the what's like Fullbring was about trust. Thousand Year Blood War had passing of the torch. So yeah, he'll play the two themes against each other, with each other, sort of. And so like, and I really like that idea as like how to thematically structure a long running story that has a bunch of fights like that. So I want to see the series that does it, with everything, perfectly integrates it basically. And maybe it already exists and I've even read it and I just haven't realized it yet.
You mentioning Bleach is definitely interesting because I can kind of give my perspective here, because I didn't really find like the act of reading Bleach to be super engaging, but in retrospect, like a lot of the themes and stuff is what's primarily like the
interesting retroactively.
Yes, whereas like with Yu Yu Hakusho, I mean, later the themes are more relevant, yes. But like here in the earlier stuff, it's kind of the inverse of Bleach, where like the themes, yes. I don't quite know what they are, but like the individual elements that are incorporated are kind of interesting to see.
The characters, the art's cool, so you're able to enjoy.
And there was another one-off thing that was kind of mentioned, just like how it relates to Genkai's character when she mentions that she would be willing to train anyone, whether they're good or evil, because like she's there to pass the torch, and it's kind of like whatever the next generation produces, that's what I'm going to pass the torch to, whether I like it or not, whether it's good or evil, that's just what the next generation decides, I guess.
Right. So yeah, I guess that's another theme to the arc, but it's not integrated well, or it's not integrated with everything else, really. Like it just is, I mean, maybe it'll come up later because again Genkai gets more focused next time, but we will see. Maybe I have kind of a feeling for Yu Yu Hakusho that you have for Fairy Tail, where it's like you can see interesting ideas there where I couldn't, and so here like I can see interesting ideas where you don't necessarily see them connecting. I don't have the perspective yet, right? Because I need to reread it, and then hopefully we'll see. But yeah, no, I definitely, I'm not sure which I prefer, or rather which I like less regarding these two, the Genkai and the Maze Castle. Because, though it is funny that like my favorite parts are for sure the non-shonen stuff in the shonen series. Like what do I enjoy more? The spirit, Yusuke as a ghost goofing around and stuff. Like that was my favorite part of this stretch. And then once we get into the actual like shonen stuff, I'm just kind of like, with me talking about it, like, is much more fun than the experience of reading it.
And that was me with Bleach. So
it's something else. Though I'm glad we haven't brought up Bleach too much, because I feel like these series get compared for being they're both about spirits, therefore they're the exact same, but Yu Yu Hakusho is better because people like it more.
The introduction does have a similar sort of atmosphere to it. Like it starts off with kind of, well, actually, that might even just be more so in the anime, because like there are more spirit related things and self-contained individual chapters with Yu Yu Hakusho, but it does kind of have the, we start off with like the school elements, and it kind of stays a bit grounded with like the supernatural stuff creeping in and affecting that. That's especially fair, like the Maze Castle arc where the teachers are all going after Keiko and whatever. And then later it expands to a broader scope where the conflicts go outward. They aren't, they're leaving the school environment and going out into the world and doing stuff, which again, like they obviously do different things with that premise. Which, I hate it when people just, like, see the premise of an arc. Like, Arrancar is just the same as Soul Society, because a girl gets kidnapped.
Fullbring is just chapter black, but bad, because it's Kubo. And it's just like I mean, I'm not going to, we compare stuff on the Nen Show, but, like, is it a constructive comparison, that's actually taking into account, like, what the thing is doing individually? Like, or is it a destructive comparison where it's just like, Ichigo's a bad protagonist because he's not like Luffy or Naruto, so he's bad. Because they have active goals and Ichigo's passive, so he's bad. Like, that doesn't take into account, like, Ichigo's a great character, and I want to reread Bleach. Like, I keep thinking about Bleach, like, man, I'm probably going to enjoy that on the reread. I hope I do. And even if I don't, I'll at least understand it better. So, yeah. Anyway, going forward back into the next arc, Yusuke is doing. I almost said Ichigo. They are the same after all. No, anyway. But yeah, Yusuke's been doing training with Genkai. It's hard, but he's getting way stronger in the spirit stuff. Like he like pretty easily beats a bunch of delinquents with a ray machine gun. Casual clothes Botan alert. Casual clothes Botan. I don't know. It's always funny, like seeing characters in uniforms or typical outfits, and then you see them in like casual stuff, and it's like, yes, give that to me. Like, I just had there's a character from Hidamari's sketch who's only worn a uniform, and she's interested in fashion, but she says she's a disaster when it comes to clothes. So I really, really want to see her in casual clothes. Because Hidamari's sketch is adorable. So I don't know. But yeah, just the thought that I had, or memory.
No, yeah, it's good, especially in like the Shounen series, seeing the characters in different outfits, because you do have some of the stereotypes, like Naruto always with like the orange jumpsuit. So
yeah, and he basically only wears that, or wears some like more just casual, like his casual clothes is like a t-shirt or something. So it's like it's pretty.
And
rare
especially because the arcs
so.
Can go on for so long, there really aren't many opportunities for characters to change, unless it's fairy tale. There's always got to be something with Lucy,
because everyone loses their clothes all the time.
Oh, but that actually was a thing that Mashima was kind of good at, as far as like outfit variety. Like all the characters would always have a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah. Because like even like because with One Piece, like Luffy literally just like recolors his clothing. Like so that's kind of like okay, I guess.
But yeah, with the arcs being as long as they can be too, there's really no opportunity. Like it's not like, oh, we do the next arc and they're in a different outfit. But if it goes on for hundreds of chapters or whatever.
Yeah, and they do have their moments, like in Whole Cake Island, they get their party suits for and then in his lobby they changed it up before, while on the Rocket Man. So it's like it happens every so often, but it's like they're still really long arcs.
So like a thing with in the Genkai selection arc, like Kuwabara in the anime he just has his blue uniform thing, whereas here he has like a shirt with like writing on it and stuff. So it's like a different. I don't know. It looks cool.
Okay, huh? Well, maybe I guess they changed it because it'd be easier to easier to animate.
Yeah, probably.
That's a weird change. That's the only thing I can think of right now.
But yeah, like the characters obviously kind of have their classic, like Yusuke, it's the green uniform.
Yes.
Kuwabara is the blue one. Hiei's got the black with the white scarf thing, and then Kurama's got his like.
Kurama's got the the red, so it's like color balance. Yay, RGB. So anyway, they get the mission, the four beasts. I wonder if this is supposed to be the 10. Was it? Fuck, I already forgot what it's called. The Heavenly Kings. But because it's just the number 4 again. So I'm like, is it?
Maybe.
But
well, because especially if like Togashi already did the thing with the 3 items, so maybe I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And they got the whistle, that are controlling mind controlling bugs. Which while the whole thing's going on, you got the Keiko at the school being attacked. Which I guess it's mostly there for the last encounter with Yusuke where he has that moment. But we'll get to that.
Now
later.
This is another thing that the anime changes a bit. And as we get it, well, it's like this arc, and then the next arc, and maybe even the previous one. Like certain characters kind of get cameos earlier on. So like this arc starts off with like Yusuke and Kuwabara and Keiko go to the movies or something, and then they're followed. And then they're like, they kind of have to ditch Keiko at the movies. So Yusuke's like, shit. Oh no, she's gonna hate me. So it is interesting because it does put a little more emphasis on their relationship. And it's not that Keiko is irrelevant in the manga, because she's gonna be more relevant later. She still has a presence to play, I guess. But I do like their dynamic and how they pretty much are. Like one of the characters in the manga said like, oh, it's platonic, but they have a good relationship. They're basically just dating, and that's a cool cool element of Yu Yu Hakusho, because how often is it that you have the romantic interest, they kind of fiddle around with it until the very end, where then they get married and they have kids and whatever, but it's only in like the last chapter. You don't get to see much of it. Whereas with
like we talked about that last time, where it's like somehow Gray and Juvia is the best romantic relationship we've had on the Nen Show. I hope that changes with this series. It's fine so far.
I like it for just presenting a different angle, because it does, like, I mean, they've already kissed, even though it was like under. But
it was a plot kiss.
It was a plot kiss, but it was a kiss, and they, it's obvious. Like, it's already been, the characters have commented on it that they have feelings for each other, and it is interesting to see that played with, especially as it gets later on when Yusuke gets into more and more dangerous stuff, and kind of, with leaving Keiko at the wayside and how she reacts to that, and how
which we already get in this stretch, but because I remember how she's handled it, at least in the next arc, but not much after that, actually, but we'll see.
I don't know. I just think their relationship is, it's just interesting to have it from the, almost sort of established from the get-go, that they just are an item, and kind of going off of that.
Yeah. Also,
even if it's a messy relationship, but those can be interesting too.
No, I'm curious to see how it goes further along. But anyway, they're not the four heavenly kings, because I was looking at the names of the four people. I honestly would have had like, if you asked me before we did the reading, like, name any of the four beasts, I would have been like,
you wouldn't have even remembered Suzaku.
Maybe Suzaku would have been the only one, but like, but I recognized Seiryu. That sounded like, and I checked, and yeah, they're not the four heavenly kings. They're the other set of four that's important in like mythology and stuff. Because China has its the four beasts that are relevant to like the cardinal directions. Like I especially remember them from Digimon season 3, because there was like Azulongmon. He's the dragon of, I think it's the north. And so I think Seiryu is that for this series, and because I just googled Suzaku, and that's also what you can call the Vermilion Phoenix. So there's also, so I think it's like Vermilion Phoenix, Blue Dragon, White Tiger, and Black Turtle, because that's what tipped me off was a Genbu, because I felt like that felt familiar. I believe that's the Black Turtle, and what is the first enemy fight? It's a turtle, who's got stone manipulation powers. So Genbu. So it's not the four heavenly kings; it's the other set of four that's being referenced here. So yeah.
Name pronunciations are going to be interesting too, because like with the dub, it definitely does the thing where like it'll put a lot extra emphasis on like the middle syllable, so like
the wrong syllable,
so like Suzaku or Toguro or stuff like that. So if I ever say something wrong, or if I go off like the dub,
no, yeah, I mean, you were pretty good about it with One Piece, even though you only read like Zolo, but that was reading, I guess. Mm-hmm. So
well, because like instinctively, I will try to like pronounce it as like putting more emphasis on the last syllable, because that's generally how they go, but it's also not always the case. So
yeah, well, I think the most common one is Tsu, the TSU, like with I think I remember one that I think the Kill la Kill dub does it, where the emphasis is on Satsuki instead of Satsuki, because that's more what it's like. That slight difference, because that's how it's more, you're actually supposed to pronounce it. So that's a common one, I think. If it's in the middle, because we're just used to consonants being ending things, where like in Japan, the only consonant sound they have as an ending to a syllable is N. So like Genbu, that's actually like, it's technically like it would be 3 characters if written out in the common one. Ge-n-bu. Where, so yeah. So that's like the only, yeah, I don't know. I tried to learn a little Japanese, and I still remember some of it. So anyway, Hiei and Kurama like, hey, you'll get pardons if you help out. So the boys are finally together.
The boys are back in town.
I thought that too, but I didn't say it. No, it's fine. But anyway, so at the Gate of Betrayal, which I just realized was Hiei's whole thing, we get that character moment where like Hiei could literally just sacrifice them if he felt like it. He's even being like offered to join. We'll be the 5 beasts now. No, but Yusuke was dumb enough to trust the one who has the most trust issues. So he becomes he goes from an edgy boy to a soft boy.
Yeah, and he has very strong Baka energy. I didn't do it for your sake. This would go faster with backup.
soon anyway, but another thought I had was, because we talked about this with Naruto, I'm pretty sure, but Sasuke, everyone says like, oh, he's like Kurapika, like again you did your comparison videos talking about it, and like, which maybe that's the case, but Kishimoto, the one he says is an influence to Sasuke is actually Hiei. And this moment, it's like, especially in like part 1, Sasuke, like he does that kind of edgy exterior, but you pull out the soft boy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, and even like the Soon stuff. And so like this moment made me kind of realize and like click like, oh, you know, this is probably the stuff that influenced Kishimoto with making Sasuke. Though I guess it's kind of opposite, because like Hiei starts out as like he's only the edgy boy, and then he becomes softer, where Sasuke starts out as the soft boy, but then he becomes the edgiest boy. Still pretty different.
Yeah, it is interesting because like I'm over here going for the low hanging fruit. I'm like, oh, Killua, but no, like Hiei did influence Sasuke, and you know, maybe other characters. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and even in like I mean, that hairstyle, it's just so reminiscent of Vegeta, and you also have like Shuda from Rave, where I feel like there's got to be some like because like yeah, I don't know. Well, because he was even introduced with a big guy, like because that was the thing we also noticed in Bleach, where you have like Ulquiorra and Yami, who's like, you got this tiny, really strong one, and then you got the bigger guy who's weaker. And so here you kind of like Kurama was there too. So but I did have that thought when he showed up and with Goki. So yeah.
I wonder how prevalent that sort of dynamic is, because I know it was also a thing Toriyama did, where it's like the big guy and then the little guy.
Yeah, did he take that from somewhere, or like that, or did he popularize it because it's fucking Dragon Ball? I mean, which is like the series I've heard the most like people like manga authors say it was an influence. Like it's fucking, maybe it's because Shounen is so popular that discourse around it is really popular, so that's why. But it's still pretty insane. So anyway, the first fight got your Kurama, you got your aesthetic character. Did the anime go full aesthetic with this fight, or just was it just a fight?
No, it was just kind of a fight. And I guess the thing is, like, with how Togashi, like, with where I generally get my aesthetic shots, like, Togashi will often have, like, text or something, like, involved, and so I was like, damn it, I can't screen cap this and tweet it.
Tweet about how aesthetic it is. I don't remember if I got anything out of the fight, though, because, like, well... There
is, like, another little tied to a character background where, like, Kurama is able to find the stone because he's a thief. He's good at finding what's hidden. But that's kind of all I could really think of.
Yeah. Though I also thought about, I think you mentioned it during when we started One Piece for sure, I think. Because Naruto and Bleach were actually pretty decent about it, but, like, yeah, the start of One Piece, you had, like... Kabaji and Zoro fighting, and Luffy and Buggy are just kind of watching, which I even pointed out was kind of weird because Luffy's such a man of action, but he sits back and lets Zoro and that's kind of pretty consistent throughout like most of the East Blue, and it kind of like finally slows down to stops once they get to the Grand Line. But this is like even more of that, where it's like
it does feel kind of arbitrary, like they all just stop to let one guy do the fighting.
Yeah, like they don't necessarily have a reason to do this, I think, because like it's actually a pretty serious situation, especially, I mean, I guess Yusuke didn't know about Keiko, but like I think but they kind of just let's watch the one-on-one fights. So it is kind of weird, and I mean, maybe they could have done I remember thinking back to this, like I kind of like, or from memory, I thought it was one of those, like I think I've talked to you about it before, where it's like, you go ahead, I'll hold them back, where they do that shonen trope where it's like, and yeah, it is
only in this case it's like, you wait there, I got this.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like I feel like this might have even benefited from that, because like I mean, maybe it would have been annoying to see it like literally 3 times in a row, but like it would have, I guess the point is it makes the characters are thinking about what's going on, and they know they need to hurry, so they're doing this way and doing it this way, so then you get the fight, and then but you also have the tension where it's like in this case, like, yeah, it is kind of weird, like the characters aren't, they're just watching,
and it is kind of in a weird, it's a weird like dual predicament where these characters are still relatively new, so it's good to see them like banter with each other and, flesh out their personalities a little bit more.
Yes,
but
true,
also
like,
they are in a situation where splitting up
yeah.
would almost make more sense for the circumstances, and so the conflict is kind of at odds with itself.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, and that's I guess one thing that did bug me a little about the arc, even though like, because again, I'm not sure which I prefer more, but because that's the thing, is they're both like, it's familiar shonen stuff, and it's not done in like a way that I'm like, because I'm not sure if I've seen these specific like kind of things, like, yeah, I mean, I guess I have, where the raid on the castle, so to speak, you know, like in Bleach, they all split up, and like One Piece and his lobby is probably one of my favorite, because they have the keys, and they all split up, and the fights, like, you know, they don't just go straight to their one-on-one fights, they encounter, they split up, they group up, it's more dynamic, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, so I've seen it done in a way find more satisfying, and I didn't get that from this arc. And then with the tournaments, it's like, I guess we'll talk about it more next time, but I think we both prefer, like, where there's more than just fighting. Like, with the Grand Magic Games was, like, one of your favorite arcs in Fairy Tail, aside from the Dragon Festival. And part of that was because, like, there's more going on than just fighting, which is cool. Like, you can be more creative with that kind of stuff. Where,
yeah, because even though, like, the action genre is definitely, like, the thing I gravitate towards, I do also like to see a bit of variety. Like, keep the action, but then also, like, do something a little more. Like, there was the dance thing in Rave, where, like, that was the conflict for the arc, was, like...
Yes, Rave became a non-battle battle series.
Yeah.
I think I made that joke, actually, never mind. But yeah, and then, like, yeah, the Corte Coliseum, like... It's funny that I don't think that part bothered you as much as, like, when the one-on-one fights happen later on in the arc, because it's just doing the thing where there's a bunch of fights, you know? So...
Yeah, to me, it's more like I like my action manga, but I also like a bit of variety. So it's like, it's not that I dislike the action, it's just more when it tends to be more monotonous, and it's just kind of fight.
And that's kind of what tournaments are. It's literally just a bunch of fights. Like, I'm not sure, like, maybe, like, I've heard, I think it's... Shit, I don't remember the manga, but a friend of mine was reading a manga that's like one big tournament, where apparently, like, it's like a bracket of 32 characters, so, like, most of these characters aren't going to interact with the main character at all, and yet the author, maybe it's 32, maybe it's more like 16, but the author goes into every single fight. I want to say Kangan Ashura, but I might be misremembering because it's a martial arts manga, and I might be mixing them up, but it's like, that sounded interesting, because it's like, so again, like, why focus on a character that, like, characters that aren't going to interact with the main character, but, like, that is kind of interesting that he bothered. So it's, I kind of want to, so I'm just, maybe we just haven't, I do hope the Dark Tournament is good.
I think that there are other ways to break up fighting too. Like, if it is going to be constant fighting, you can fluctuate the tone and stuff too. So maybe have like more of a gag fight or something.
Gag fights are, and then, well, what this manga did apparently has, like, mid-battle flashbacks, like, that give context to these characters, like, why they're fighting, what they're doing.
Okay, yeah, that works too.
Like, right, so even though it is, like, a bunch of fights with, again, characters who don't matter, it's still maintaining the interest through, like, giving context to these characters. Because, yeah, a flashback can be anything, you know? It could be a gang story. It could be, you know, a slice of life. It could be, you know, just normal martial arts stuff. Like, you could do whatever, so that would be a good way to break up the fighting. So, tournament arc video win. I have no idea. But I think, I did like this fight a bit, because Kuwabara... Like, he has to do more, like, creativity and stuff, like, with his sword, and his sword's pretty versatile, all things considered. So I think I did, like, I'm not sure which my favorite, because, like, honestly, I think the only one I didn't care for was the Kurama one, because it's just like, oh, I have powers, and Kurama's like, I'm gonna find your weak point.
Yeah, the rock guy isn't a super intriguing antagonist.
Oh, and this is the White Tiger. I just realized, because he's a beast boy. So yeah, because I should have realized the theme earlier.
I was curious how the manga would translate it, because, like, you know, when his sword extends or whatever, in the dub, it's just sword get long, like, that's his command, and it's just weird and funny.
That is funny. It's in, like, a dumb way, but Kuwabara's dumb, so it's fitting.
Yeah.
Like, he just can't even name his attacks correctly. He's just a dumbass. It's funny. But yeah, it's you know, again, like, you got the creativity stuff going on.
Yeah, like, he can, like, tie his sword together, like his energy, and, like, form the.
Yeah, it's less like a sword, and it's more like just a whatever the fuck he wants. So it's
there's even a point where he can use it as, like, a pole vault later.
Yeah, and he uses it to like he kind of does as a like a climbing rope to kind of hold on to the edge, and, like, it looks like it's wrapped around his stomach after he, like, knocks the antagonist, then they both fall. So it's you know, it's good at establishing, because, like, last time he got the sword, but now he's, like, doing more stuff with it, so that's cool. As far as conflict, I got nothing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, like, he energies him.
it's fine. Yeah. Like, if anything, he matters more to, like, the next fight, because I also like this one, even though it's a nothing fight. What did you think? Oh, yeah, because, looking at his design, he's got a big old dragon on his clothes, so it's like, yeah, they're the four beasts.
See,
the cardinal beasts.
So I had originally found this third fight to be completely uninteresting, and even the part where, like, Tiger Guy comes back and then gets killed, I'm like, wow, we really had to do that trope. But now I'm like, wait, hold on, Hiei, trust, and knowing that there were other moments that, like, set it up before, it's another one of those.
That's exactly why I like the fight, because it does it's like this is probably the best, like, thematic one this arc. And yeah, because it's like a nothing fight, like he literally just like one shots the dude in a 2-page spread, and you know, and I guess that would break up the tension a bit, or break up the pacing a bit, because now instead of like a big old long fight, he just fucking destroys him immediately. So it's like, okay, that's a relief, you know.
Yeah.
One less fight to worry about.
I wish the anime had done it that way.
Did they expand the fight?
They did. Like, he uses his ice power. So, like, Hiei's got speed, but then, like, he gets caught with some ice, and he's like, oh, no, I'm a little slower. And I don't even remember. Then he eventually does just cut him down, but it's like they just pad it out more.
Gotcha. So that's the One Piece anime apparently does that too. Like, there's the one fight with Zoro and Hody Jones underwater, where in the manga it was literally a 2-page spread of Zoro just like immediately just destroying Hody Jones. But in the anime, they had a bunch of Zoro dodging around and shit and struggling more, which makes Hody Jones look stronger. And it's just a waste of time because it just stop it, anime. But yeah, like you were saying, is like, you know, you have this guy who he trusted Seiryu and he died for it. You know, because Seiru's the evil bad guy who doesn't care about his friends, and Hiei gets pissed because, like, you know, he's been that guy. He's been betrayed before, and like shat on basically, and it just you know, climaxes with just literally 1 page or 2-page spread rather, and it was good. He's combining the softness and the edginess. he's being edgy for soft reasons.
It's funny because, like, I liked Hiei's aesthetic before when I had seen the anime, but now I'm already like, wow, I already have a greater appreciation for his character, and we're only in the first little.
Yes. When did you notice that idea exactly? Was it reading the manga during that fight, or because you said you didn't notice it until later and you hadn't like picked up on the earlier stuff?
Well, for that little part specifically, it was more just like when I was reading the manga for this podcast. I was like, oh, they did that because of this.
Gotcha.
Which is like it's a simple thing. I should have picked it up sooner, but I don't know. Some things are easy to miss. Sometimes if you make something so obvious, Naruto, talk no jutsu,
dude. It's so weird, like, it's gonna be, because I'm gonna reread that one too, but like, because I had these, like, oh, look at all these, like, wow, you know, Naruto's just forcing himself, you know, his desires on Sasuke, and then, like, I think there's, like, a line from that fight that where Sasuke basically says the exact same thing, and the other one is, I was like, Mathwiz, I realized with Madara, like, he makes connections through fighting, and then you read it and it's like battle buddies, and it's like, oh, yeah, Kishimoto literally just states it outright, like, we got the point so hard we missed it, like, what?
And so that's me with Hiei. It's like, it's right there. It's so blatant that I just miss it.
Yep. I've done it. Like, we've both done it. That's the thing. So, but anyway.
Speaking of blatant things that get missed. Oh, never mind. I'm jumping a little ahead.
Because Keiko is getting attacked at school, and Botan's there to the rescue. Casual clothes Botan, I need to specify. It's important. But yeah, and then you get a friendship moment where everyone, like, they form a tower to help Yusuke get into the final area because it's blocked off by a bunch of zombies, zombie demon whatevers who are being controlled.
It's kind of cool because, like, earlier in the arc when Yusuke kind of took the heat for Hiei so he could, so Yusuke put the trust in Hiei, and now Hiei is kind of returning the favor because he's the last one that Yusuke jumps off to get to the window.
Right. So yeah, it's good. Because, like, I'm not sure, because, like, he has definitely had the best, like, moments with his trust stuff, and I do like Yusuke's character explanation, so they're probably my favorite two so far. Not that I dislike Kuwabara or Kurama. Like, Kurama's definitely had the least, like, thus far, so, not that it's bad, but it's, like, I don't know. They're both getting more, everyone's getting more in the next arc, so we'll see. But anyway, so general thoughts on the Suzaku versus Yusuke battle, and I'm also curious, like, did they do anything in the adaptation that was neat, or...
So, a thing that's funny... With the manga specifically, the anime always gets this detail right, as far as I'm aware. So I knew going into this fight that the little head pendant thing that he wears would sometimes get missed, What I did not realize is that there would literally be a page where he has it in his character thing, and then on the same page, he doesn't have it. Like,
because no, I honestly didn't notice it because I was just reading pretty quickly, and I'd already read the whole rest of the arc so far, so I was probably a little tired because again, not all the fights were like, or at least the Genbu one was pretty meh. But yeah, it's like because I'm only noticing it now because like on this first like on these introduction pages, he's really good about having it, and then there's just like one page where he literally has it in like he's saying ready or not, and then literally there's a panel of Yusuke, a small one, and then there's a bigger panel of him attacking and he doesn't have it, and then after that it's just like super inconsistent.
I just think it's really funny because bad. Like there are like 3 or maybe like 4 focal images on the page, 2 of them being his face, and one of them doesn't have the pendant, and it's just. And it's literally like the second page that he is shown.
I mean, I don't think it's an important but it's very it's I don't
No. I just find it funny. Like it doesn't really make me enjoy the fight less or anything. But I also think it's interesting. Just like his character design in general has a lot of like little details to it. Like he's got the cape thing like coming out of his back, almost like wings or whatever. He's got the very detailed looking staff thing.
That's true. So he was probably a pain in the ass to draw and animate.
Yeah, I would imagine. And plus he's got like the different colored like little hair things in the front.
He's got the black antenna kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah, the fight, like obviously the big thing is Yusuke, like, because when he gets when Keiko's in danger and stuff, he gets like that aura around him. I think. Yeah, that was this fight, right?
Yeah, this is one of those where like if you're first going through Yu Yu Hakusho, it can kind of just seem like. Well, I mean, it really just is the case. Like, Yusuke doesn't have energy until he needs it, and then he has it, which is a very, like, oh, that's plot convenient sort of thing. But,
let's pull power up.
But, like, with Yusuke's character, and it's something that comes up again later, and, it has come up, it's the whole, like, emotion thing. Like, he tends to... Yeah. That's the thing that, like, Genkai presses him on when they're training, is, like, he tends to half-ass things, or, like, he doesn't fully commit, because he, with like his upbringing and whatever, he's afraid of like coming up short or something, or like he doesn't want other people to worry about him or whatever, so he's always trying to do things himself, but he never like fully commits, so he never really uses his full reserve of energy. And
yeah, because I mean, even going back to the first chapters, like he wasn't doing anything. He was basically like just dicking around and not really living, like he was, or not really having a reason to live, so to speak. So yeah, it makes sense that he has to find himself, more or less, and who he is. So, yeah, and what he cares about. And even if that is, it's friendship. He gets a friendship power.
But yeah, kind of besides that, I don't really have much of a takeaway from this fight. Like, I guess there's something with, like, oh, the demon looks down on humans for things. But it's, I don't know.
Yeah, like, and he splits into 7, and that happens, I guess.
He has the most broken power-up, where, like, he can split into 7, and provided that one of them stays up, he can, like, reform, heal himself, and then split into 7 again. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah, it's crazy strong, and it just happens, and...
It's not quite also, like the character in Fairy Tail who could literally, like, shrink your organs and kill you, but...
Not quite that overpowered, no. Also, there was I wrote it down in my notes because there's a part where like Yusuke gets knocked down and during the Genkai training, and Genkai's like telling him stuff, but there's like so there's like an arrow pointing him. It's like he's sleep learning because he was like unconscious.
Yeah.
But she's like scolding him, and so I wrote a note where it's like Luffy has sleep eating, Yusuke has sleep learning. So, I don't know, just the thought I had. So yeah. But yeah, it's the fight ends. He destroys the whistle. There's a lot of intrusive sound effects that cover all of the art that Togashi broke his back over.
Yeah. God, that makes it even worse. It's like he like you said it. He broke his back over this art, and Viz is just like, nah, we're just gonna sound effect. People talking about censorship in media, like, man, where's the censorship brigade on this one? I don't know. Maybe one day, maybe they'll redo it. Maybe. Probably not. It probably sells too well for them to redo it.
I would love it. Even if, because fan translators, like, so the thing about just general translations, because obviously we've been reading the official translations so far when possible.
Yeah.
And Actually, I think all the time, yeah.
Well, except for that like little bit towards the end of Bleach, where
we had to read manga stream. That is true because the official volumes hadn't been released or scanned all the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the thing with because like I think the comparison is like I would say official translations, like even the word like. I mean, this might be one of the weaker ones. Like, I have some issues with Naruto's translation with just word choices and terminology choices and lack of translator notes when they kind of fucking needed them. This one.
You mean like the one
later?
conflict where the character in the letter mattered? That didn't need a translator's now.
Yeah, and then the chess shogi thing with Shikamaru that one time. But in this one, it's like apparently the translation has issues. Like it probably has them now, but apparently but we only really know about some of the ones from later because that's when we have the fan translations to compare to. But like but even the worst one, like the scan quality is good. It's readable. Like it reads fine in English. Where like if you look at bad, like I'm worried when we get to the old school because I think some of the series we might cover, like potential series, really bad scan quality and stuff. So it's like the floor for fan translations is way lower than official translations. But at the same time, like I heard the manga translation for Yuru Camp has like lots of extra information about the actual campsites that they go to, like from the real world, where it's like the official translation would never have something like that. But that's so the fan translations also have a potential higher bar.
Yeah,
so in theory,
like
if you had someone
they have less, that would be like less limitations.
Yes. Exactly. So I feel like I'd love to see a passionate fan go and really give this series if it does really have a bad translation, but who's gonna care, so to speak? That doesn't happen that often. So like retranslation series that are already translated, like that's unusual. So like most translators are focusing their efforts on series that don't have official releases or are new and relevant, where it's like speed translations. So getting them out before the official stuff. So it's a shame. And so this series probably isn't going to get a full translation that's more accurate. Because that's the other thing is you have to go through the original raws, and that's more work than just scanning the official volume. So because that would uncover the art, the sound effects. So. Oh well. Holy shit, we're over 3 hours already.
Yeah, I didn't expect this one to go this long.
Is it going to be because... I don't...
That's why I was thinking maybe the chapter Black should be its own episode, because I know I'll have a lot to say for that, but we'll see.
Yeah, even though I think it's only like 20 chapters, so...
Well, that's a Three King.
It's still... It'll probably...
But just...
Yeah, it's plus Three Kings. And then also our arc rankings and characters and fights.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe it's a better idea. Just split those up, so... Anyway, kind of finishing out the arc, Keiko scolds Yusuke. Like, there's a bit where he's like, oh, she's gonna slap me, and she like, there's that whoosh, and here it comes. But she just wants to know. She just wants to like, don't just do shit, just tell me, because she's almost involved. Like, they're still kind of avoiding it, but like she's been like he fucking died and came back to life. She communed with his spirit. Like,
yeah,
she's almost there already.
Well,
but they got
there was that, and then like
the love interest can't.
This arc where she is literally like being attacked by these things. Like she becomes like plot relevant, and she's like, yeah, maybe she should know what's going on.
Right. Like you got the superhero thing where it's like, but I can't tell you because I must protect you about my secret identity. But they're getting danger anyway, so it's like, why not just let them be informed?
Yeah, that's what I find interesting. Another thing I find interesting about Keiko is that like even if she's not a fighter really, because again like you don't have to be, just because it's an action manga, that does not mean that you have to be a fighter to get some sort of character arc or be involved, which is
dude,
that could apply to a lot of characters.
Okay, this extends to everyone. What just put out a new video responding to watch the video. It's good because it brings up that exact point where it's like no, because Keiko's like she's I'm not sure I like think she's a like amazing character yet, but she's good. Like she's just there rearing in Yusuke's bullshit because he needs it because he's a bullshitter. But she doesn't fight. Does that mean she's a bad character or the girls don't fight? I don't know. Whatever. But anyway, so there's it feels like it. I think it leads right into the next. Oh, that's okay. That might have been the funniest gag actually. So they're hearing about how there's like doppelgangers going around starting shit, and at first they're like we're not sure, and they're like stooped down, and then they're like wait. and the Kovar's friends are like, so you're gonna fight him? And then Yusuke and Kovar are like, actually, we can't even move. We're stuck. Like,
yeah.
Because their bodies hurt, so they're literally stuck in a stooping position. And
yeah, I thought that was pretty funny, too.
That was a good one.
And they cut it from the anime.
No! Because, okay, I had that problem with 2011, too. Like, it's a great adaptation, but they cut out literally, like, one of the best gags with the sushi, when Gon does the sushi
Hunter,
with, like, the fish sticking out of it. Yeah, in Hunter x Hunter, sorry. And then Kurapika does the exact, like, comes to a logical conclusion and does the exact same thing, and it's so stupid and great. And they cut it from the 2011 one. It's there in the 99, I think, but it's not, I didn't watch it, so, but I think so. But
no, it is. It's there in the 99.
Don't cut out the funny.
But yeah, it is also kind of interesting because of the, like, implications that has on the next arc. I mean, like, Hiei does show up to deliver the tape. He just does it in, like, a different order of events. But yeah, like, here, he kind of just, like, gives him the next assignment, and it's, again, like, another volume-ending gag, where it's just like, they do the fall on their head, feet in the air gag.
Yes, the it's so 90s. Like, that's just such a 90s thing.
Although, also, there was,
I
don't know if this was just a translation thing, or if that was actually...
I was going to bring up the exact same thing.
The tuxedo mask, where Kurama just throws the rose?
Yes! We both said also at the same time, so that we could bring up this exact... Holy shit, that's funny. For the exact same... Because I was also going to... I don't know if it's... Because Sailor Moon, it's Togashi's wife.
But I think this would have come out before they were...
Yes, so I think it's a translation liberty because the Sailor Moon, I don't even think, actually, shit, what where did the manga go? Because so it was definitely, because Sailor...
I mean, I feel like Sailor Moon is probably ongoing at this point, but I don't think they were an item yet.
At this point, yeah, because, no, they weren't an item until the late 90s, but, so let's put, Sailor Moon, like, the manga started in 1991, so I think these, which was the same year that this chapter would have aired, would have come out, been published, because I think, Sailor Moon didn't exist yet, I'm pretty sure, when Kurama said this line, because it would have been the early 91.
So it's a translation
So it's 100%
liberty.
a translation thing, yes, because they're like, so...
I think it's a funny translation liberty, but...
Yeah, no, it's like, and it's a reference that the audience it's like reaching out to would recognize, because Sailor Moon was pretty popular. Like, it aired in the middle of the day, like right before Dragon Ball. I know because I was really excited for Dragon Ball, so me and my brother would just watch Sailor Moon, because why not?
Yeah, but it's like a multi-layered joke, because not only does it reference the popular Sailor Moon, but also like the fact that they were married later. So
right, and they would have been by the time this was officially released.
Yeah.
So it's good. But it is like
it does also kind of paint like a false because like if this had happened literally, did they even meet by this point yet? I don't know. So like to reference, or you said the Sailor Moon manga hadn't even come out yet.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, like, or at least
or it was early.
If Yu Hakusho started in 1990, and we hit 51 chapters, so it would have been going a little bit more than a year. So in other words, like Sailor Moon had just started, if at all, and that's assuming Yu Hakusho came out late, like also in December, because that's the thing. Sailor Moon was December 91, and Yu Hakusho started November 90. So Sailor Moon would have just been coming out at absolute latest. When this chapter came out. So,
and I'm guessing Tuxedo Mask isn't there immediately.
I have no idea. I've never read the manga. I've only seen some of the anime on Toonami.
Tune in for the Nono Show cast, where we cover Sailor Moon.
Yes, I would love that. We just gotta finish Doremi first.
No, that would have been cool. Like if we could have somehow timed this to cover Sailor Moon right after Togashi stuff, but we didn't.
If only we thought about it and you started Sailor Moon instead of Togashi.
Damn.
Oh well.
Damn.
It's fine.
Missed opportunity.
But yeah, they run into the doppelgangers. Hiei helps with the cleaning up the trash, and they beat up the and they get the assignment. So it's kind of like this. I feel like maybe this chapter is like what the series could have been if it was like lighter, maybe, where it's just like spirit antics with like demons in the real world, but also like they're so strong at this point that there's like where's the tension in that? So it's just a thing that happens, for just an idea that Togashi had, I guess, before going back to the actual story, because they gotta rescue Yuki Onna, ice maiden, snow maiden, because they watch the tape. Botan does the cat face,
Yeah, I like the little gag where there's like a big block of exposition text, and Yusuke's just like pointing to it, like, "What is this? What did you tell her?"
What's all this garbage? Yeah.
Yeah, because he was gonna come clean, like, "Hey, Keiko, this is my tape for my next assignment," and Keiko's like, what's the spirit world? Oh, that must be the name of the agency of the private detective you're working for." And then there's Botan's cat face.
Yes. But anyway, they get their mission. There's a piece of shit named Gonzo Tarukane who's getting tears out of the snow maiden, who Kuwabara sees and goes, "Holy shit, she's adorable." Yeah. I would die for this woman. Like,
Kuwabara is good.
Yes. And then we get I almost am a little mad, but in literally like 2 chapters, Toguro is honestly like the best antagonist in this entire stretch of chapters.
I would agree.
He's only like, even not even counting the Dark Tournament or anything, just from what we read.
No, yeah, like very quickly, like some of his early lines of dialogue say a lot about him.
Yes. But the big thing for me was when he's like, Gonzo was suspicious about his loyalty, and he's like, and Toguro was like, "Oh, I don't like animals," but he still concedes on his preferences for money, greed, themes, and it was a good moment that did a lot to characterize Toguro, because he does that. And at the end, like, what happens when he's free of the money is he fucking kills the guy. Like, he has no reason to do that. Like, his life's already ruined because he's been bankrupted by the gambling, and Toguro just fucking like kicks his head off because he fucking feels like it.
Well, I mean, the guy he was working for said take out the trash, but I mean, like, you could, but it does just show that, like, he never, like, he's in it for, like, the money. That's what is motivating his actions in this case. Yes. So it doesn't matter who, it really just, like, reinforces it doesn't matter who's calling the shots. He will. I
hadn't thought about how at the end of the day he does take out the trash. The trashiest one of all.
Yes. No, this little setup arc is really interesting, I think. Because
that's why I don't want to, like, consider it its own arc, because it would honestly be higher than Mae's Castle and Genkai Selection, even though it's like 5 chapters.
Well, because
it's 5 chapters, but it's really like this is like the beginning of Togashi, I assume. This is where, because, like, I don't know, like, maybe the back pain gave him superpowers when it came to writing. Though, I mean, seriously speaking, like, I feel, because, like, Chimera Ant arc is a great arc, but it also came out, it's like 10 volumes over the period of 10 years? So it's like, he had a lot of time to think about the arc. In comparison, like, Dressrosa was 10 volumes in, like, 2 to 3 years, So if it's not as tightly written, well, Oda didn't have it, like, Oda had, like, a fourth of the time to do it, So even if, like, the back pain is really hurting his, like, productivity, like, it does give him more time to think about his story. Yeah. Like, what else are you going to do when you're lying in bed and you can't work? Think about Hunter x Hunter, So it's like, I would say, like, a lot of the like, the characters and, like, why they're so well written, like, it, like, there's probably a reason, it probably makes sense as to, like, why he's able, like, if he had Mashima's energy, like, he wouldn't have spent as much time thinking about the stories. So
well, yeah, because you would sometimes, I thought I remember once hearing that, like when Kishimoto, just to bring up another example, when he was getting to the end of, like, the Hidan and Hidan and Kakuzu stuff, and he talked about, like, something in his back, like a slipped disc or whatever. So, like, he might not have fully, like, ended that arc in the way that he wanted to as a result of, like, pain or whatever. But again, it's like when you have to go up with that deadline, whereas, like, with Togashi, he got himself to a point where, the deadlines didn't necessarily matter because, like, he couldn't meet them.
Because he can basically do Hunter x Hunter whenever he wants, because it sells so well, even after that, with the hiatuses, that Jump is just like, yeah, you can take your time off.
Yeah.
But, well, and yeah, I guess, like, it's obviously not, like, Kubo also had health problems, and that's kind of why he ended Bleach where he did, so there was issues there too, but he wasn't given the freedom that Togashi has.
No.
So it is just kind of weird how, like, there's almost a correlation between, like, good writing and back pain, and it's it's funny, but it's also sad, because this poor man has suffered for my entire lifetime, so more or less, so anyway, but yeah, Gonzo wants money, and yeah, Toguro has the moment where he recognizes that, like, I guess she's very much like Yusuke in a way, because she, like, when he starts attacking the birds, like, here you have someone else suffering because of her, and that's what gets her emotional, where she doesn't care about her own suffering, like, she's been tortured and shit, and she was like, fine. Like, like I'm looking at this one panel where they first go in and she's just got these dead eyes, and I'm like, this poor girl.
Yeah. I really liked his line where he said, forget being stubborn and learn to cry on command. That way you'll at least be free of me and my brother. And then so in that case, no one else will get hurt. He won't have to kill these birds.
Yes.
To get...
Right. Compromise on your person for, the easy route, the money or whatever, So it's, like you said, he very quickly establishes, what Togoro's deal is, and it's good. But anyway, then the arc gets going, and you have the gambling shit going on. They're like, everyone's like, oh yeah, see, these people don't know they're in a shonen manga because they're betting on the overdog.
Yeah.
If they knew they were in a shonen manga, they'd be betting on the. Oh my god. Oh no, it's just the mustache. Never mind.
But yeah, one of the big things in this arc is that you have literal billionaires just tossing billions of dollars around in these gambling fits, which is just I don't know, it says a lot about how Togashi's views on rich people like that, this is or society. I don't know.
Well, also when you say it like that, I think of kaiji. It's a common trope in general where you just have rich people who have money.
Oda does it too with all the heavenly dragons and stuff.
Yes.
So there are other examples too.
I mean, yeah, no, it's pretty indicative of how I guess.
I think there was even a line at one point where one of the characters said "Wow, that's more money than the Japanese government has," and it's
yeah, because the one guy with the scar does know that he's in a shonen manga, so he keeps betting on Yusuke Kuwabara. So, and of course, it turns out that he did have intel about it because he's like, oh yeah, there's apparently these two humans who are able to be toe to toe with demons. So yeah, and then he keeps betting more and more money on them. Oh boy, and then we get to the fights. So for some reason I only just realized that the 3 demons that Toguro has with him, I have 1 horn, 2 horn, 3 horn.
Oh.
The one, yeah, I only just noticed, but the 1 horn is the Miyuki, the very, very pretty crossdresser. Oof. I mean, we talked about this one before because it's very oof. But how do you? Okay, let's go a bit more into it. How do you feel about Yusuke versus Miyuki?
Well, do you really trying to think, was there anything I wanted to say before that? So this arc does introduce some conflicts with demons and people. That comes up later on. I also really like Togoro's character design and how initially
I like how I ask you a specific question and you decide to talk about literally everything else.
But yeah, his name. Anyways, he's got this character design where when he's first introduced, he looks really tall and skinny. You can see
oh yeah,
I mean he's got muscles, but
he looks as thin as me. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But then he gets buff, of course, because that's his.
But he doesn't just get buff. He gets freakishly what's the word I was thinking of earlier? It's horrifically kind of buff. You see at one point his collarbone is there's I don't know if it's his collarbone popping out or it's muscles around the collar. It's ugh, it looks gross.
Yeah, no. And, well, of course, obviously, there's, in the future, and then, I've even seen fan art, I guess what would be 1,000,000%, where it's just, this giant fucking, mountain, and it's just, so I'm pretty sure it's supposed to look dumb. I might find it, because it's funny, but that's, I guess, technically spoilers.
But no, it does also kind of provide it's an interesting view of power, because, he is just very brute force, and very just, muscle mass, that's his thing. But, it's not in a way that glorifies that much overwhelming strength. He does look kind of grotesque, and especially when he uses more power, and it deforms his body even more. At some points he gets what I call mushroom shoulders, the way they just kind of pop out these little ridges on the sides.
Yes, which is very fitting to his general character, which we'll talk about more in the Dark Tournament, I'm sure.
But it's just overall
being more monstrous,
a good character design.
And he's got his older brother who's kind of there. and I honestly forget about a lot. Like it's funny when someone says, "Oh yeah, Toguro is so great." No one ever has thought, "Yeah, older Toguro."
Yeah. No, there's a reason why he's more often referred to as like elder Toguro and not, the which is interesting.
It's Toguro and elder Toguro,
because generally,
which is an awful lot like saying Toguro and then the other Toguro. Like, it's just like he exists.
But it's also kind of interesting because like generally like seniority would give but no, it's just because the younger brother is.
Yes, he's cooler and better, and everyone loves him. Like he's generally considered like a really great villain. So, and like I said, in this 5-chapter arc, he's already the best antagonist in this stretch of chapters. So it's like,
yes.
So yeah.
Okay, now do we have we have to talk about it.
Rip off the Band-Aid, Mathwiz. Rip it off.
So, this is an interesting moment, like, in comparison to what we eventually get in Hunter x Hunter, which is, like, way different. And, I mean, there is a degree to which you could look at this scene at all and say that, like, the fact that it exists and that Togashi is willing to even include discussions of like gender identity and like the way people present themselves and whatnot in a shonen action manga, which especially like at the time period that Yu Yu Hakusho came out in like early 90s.
Yes.
It, like I won't...
Well, that's definitely like a very interesting conversation because, I mean, it involves more research in regards to the time period. Like, what an example I think of is Cutie Honey, where it's like, the main character, she's the only one who fights, and she's a robot who's also an attractive girl who's like, she is constantly like the school she's at is like a Catholic school, so it's pretty repressive about that kind of thing. And then she's constantly harassed by like male characters, but like, even if, at the same time, like think about like how she acts, like, she maintains her sexuality and stuff. Like, maybe looking back, it's kind of like oof in some aspects. Like, it's the pervert characters are annoying as I tend to find them, but like, was this progressive for the time period, And that's a question that we need, that definitely needs to be considered when talking about
and
this
this
kind of
is
thing,
where I think it comes down to what the translation is saying, because the anime translated it a little differently. In this one, in the manga, it just is like, you're not a real cross-dresser, you just can't make up your mind. You want to do that before you get into any fighting. And I'm not quite sure what that is saying. In the anime, one line that he has is like, if you're gonna be a man, don't do it half-assed. If you're gonna be a woman, again, like, so the message is very, it's definitely a very, like, binary view of gender, where it's like, you be one or the other, don't do anything in between, which...
Right, because, that's...
So there's...
Well, the other oof thing for me is that, like, he sexually harasses this person. Yeah. And kind of gets, like, it was justified because he's, like, that's what she says, you're so right. Like, and it's, it's framed as a joke, but it's also, like, I think we have talked about
the fact
before,
that it is, like, that just is the binary. Only aspect of this fight. So it's kind of just like, oh, you're right. So you have, like, I mean, let's be honest, you have a cisgender guy in Yusuke basically telling someone else how to express their identity. And they're just like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, bleh, I lose.
And like, the whole point of the movement is to like recognize people for their identity, which is just general human. Like, a human should have the right to identify, like, decide who they are and what they are. In regards to that kind of thing. But and people say dumb shit about it, like Apache attack, which is ignorant. But and this is ignorant in its own way, because like you said, it's a very binary view. And here you have a sexual harasser. Yeah, it's. I mean,
it's like oof in many different, like, interesting ways to explore why it is oof. Because like
it is interesting to talk about.
There is more to, like, because from the view of like a binary perspective, like, this is to say nothing of, to use the Japanese term, X-gender people who don't identify as male or female. Okay. Like that sort of that potential context is just completely ignored. Like, any possibility of people who are, non-binary or agender or X-gender who are, like, not male or female, like, that is completely ignored in this fight. Which again, like, it is the early 90s, so I understand maybe that wasn't as prevalent. I would need to do more research into the topic, but
yes. And again, like other series, how are they presenting these kind of characters at this time period? Like, relatively, like, is this? I mean, I'm not sure if I'd call this progressive, but again, that's from my modern standpoint. And I do like how, like, I've heard Level E has some kind of stuff to this conversation. And of course, you mentioned Hunter x Hunter, where you have Alika, And so, like, it is interesting to see. I'm curious about Level E because that'll factor into, like, his evolution. Because maybe he did this and, like, he just, he was ignorant about it, and then maybe he got some letters about it, and, like, hey, this is actually kind of fucked up, dude. And he's like, oh, well. And then he researched it and thought about it and realized that he's wrong. And I hope that's great if that's the case.
Like, if any of our viewers have ever seen Philosophy Tube, he did a video on transphobia about this kind of, like, your dad mentality, which is sort of like, it's a type of thinking that, kind of like tosses out the, like, at face value might seem, like, I don't know, like it maintains like the spore, the origin of sort of in this case, the transphobia. So it's like, he's saying, like, if you want to be, like, in this case, the character says, like, I'm a man in body, but my soul is a woman's. It's sort of saying, like, well, if you want to be a woman, go all the way with it. And, like, in the anime, it's kind of said, like, give yourself, like, if you have the mind of a woman, the body of a woman, or something to that effect.
It's not very nuanced.
Yeah, so it's like
buzzword way to put it.
Maybe for the time, it might have been seen as more progressive, and again, like the fact that it's included at all in this genre is interesting.
It doesn't like outright dismiss the idea of someone changing their gender.
No.
It just says like it's still like it's not a great way of looking at it, but it is like saying it's okay to change your gender, but only if you do this, which is where it goes wrong. So yeah. So I guess if you consider, it might be progressive if you consider it like that. But again, not. I mean, and maybe he was doing that deliberately. Like maybe the editors had a problem with it, so maybe he was aware, but he still presented it in this not great way because that's the thing. Like, because you keep mentioning like, how Togashi sees things, but like one thing we have to realize is that like, as a writer, you don't like, you can recognize how much of yourself you're putting into your work and not do that. Like, the example I always think of is Kishimoto. He agrees with Sasuke more, and yet he had Naruto win because that's the audience he was writing to. He thought this would be the more idealistic ending for children, and that turned out to also be better narratively, given, like, Sasuke's character arc, in my opinion. But, like, so it's like, so I don't know this social, like, what happened in Jump offices at this time. So Togashi may have been fully aware of these issues, but still portrayed it in this oof way for, again, appealing to that audience, trying to, like, do it in, like, because it's done in a very goofy way that might be, funny, that kind of maybe it undercuts the kind of, like, the oofness to it, to some.
And I do think there is also, earlier I mentioned that Yusuke is not, like, the moral center of this story in the same way that, like, a Naruto might be for Naruto. There could,
so it's like the fact that it's
I mean, like, you do have the character saying, like, like Kuwabara's like, why would you do that? Like, you still did, like, and I think there's also, like, a bit of, like, a commentary on misogyny. He tries to go for a lot in this little brief moment, because you have, like, the character also saying, oh, you're gonna fight me this way because I'm a woman or whatever. Because, like,
True.
He's like, before he starts the fight, he's like, well, I'm gonna check and make sure. And we know that, like, groping is a thing that he does. But so he has a line where he's like, I would have gone easy on her if she was a if she was a real woman, or whatever exactly the specific language is that he used. And it's very I don't know, it just sends mixed messaging, and I think he was trying to be progressive with it, but it's just like a lot that's thrown in there, and it's in a very short time that doesn't have enough room to really, like,
it's literally like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First page is Miyuki, doing the establishing, like, here's what her design is.
And you have Kuwabara, who's like, I'm not going to fight a woman, but Yusuke is like, well, I'll fight anyone regardless of race, gender, or whatever exactly it was that he said. So, like, I don't know, like, because she is the villain in this case, and she's trying to stop them from saving Yukina, so, like, obviously she's not a hero or anything. And so, like, Yusuke is justified in fighting her, but it's like the way that he does it. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just messy. That's what it is. And so, like,
he does. It says that he says that he doesn't care, but then he admits that I might have gone a little easy on a real girl. But then but she wasn't a real girl.
But then it also does the thing where it's like, okay, so he would. I mean, again, like, it is his character, and it's not a good thing for him. But, like, he wouldn't fight a girl, but he would grope a girl in a fight. It's strange.
Well, it's also, like, I don't know, I just had a thought regarding, because, like, Yusuke apparently would be, like he, the actual, like, sex, like, it is more important to him than the gender, I guess you could say, because, like, it's not, it wasn't, it's, she's, like, he's got in quotation marks, like, it's not, And then I just thought about how like Sanji like has not apparently hit like he had to steal the recipes, and had to he even though their sex is male, but they're women, so he still won't hit them. Like I thought that was I just had that realization just now. So it's kind of I don't know, seeing the progress. Like are there more series that do like we need more like information in general about like the general like evolution of this kind of topic, and that would be even in just shonen manga, but also just in general would be interesting, because it is interesting to consider, like, yeah, even just a progressive arc for Togashi, just comparing the Miyuki to Aluka and their handlings is interesting. So it's I don't know.
Yeah, like I don't want to dwell on this topic for too long. But
it's too late.
No, I mean, like, like I could realistically, I could probably ramble for a while about it, but I'm trying to like keep my ideas together. But yeah, like the anime doesn't really help this much at all, because it like expands the scene, and there are like several points where he's just like punching her in the chest, and it's strange. But and then like the dub does some weird translations with it too. That kind of it like tries to sort of like, I don't know, it somewhat dodges some of the messaging, but some
it tries to de-oof it, but ultimately it kind of can't.
Sort of.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just it's really interesting seeing this, and then seeing Hunter x Hunter, where there are a bunch of androgynous characters, and really like just the whole subject of gender almost doesn't matter in Hunter x Hunter, but not like in it doesn't matter, so you can't be whatever you identify as or whatever, but it's like, people just are who they are, and that's just kind of it. Like there's not much really that needs to be said more on it. Like in Hunter x Hunter, people just exist, and they just are as they are, and that's kind of accepted. Except in the case of like Aluka, where there's more of a commentary there.
There's a specific thing with her there, right? Yes, and it's neat, but we'll talk about that more when we actually.
But whereas like in this one scene, it very much like gender and gender roles like very much do matter for this scene, which is kind of almost the antithesis of like what his later work represents.
Yeah.
And so I think it's more just like I am curious about like, again, like I said, I'm curious about Togashi's headspace, and I'm curious about like, what were his influences that kind of led him to this scene, why he felt so passionate about this to include it in his manga. But then like he also
or why I thought it would be interesting.
And his mindset evolved later to the point where he was in Hunter x Hunter, which I would say has some like legitimately progressive stuff in it. So it's just an interesting thing to look at. I think that's it can be oof, but it's got some interesting things in there. And I think that's
honestly like, because I guess
best I can say about it.
When you say it like that, I think, because I feel like when people like who are interested in the progressiveness, they try to talk about these topics, they just dismiss it like, oh, it's bad, therefore they don't try to understand why it's like this or what there is to be said. Because it's oof, but how long have we been talking about it? Because it's interesting, even if there are problematic elements to it, So I definitely appreciate that aspect of our discussions. So
I'd really like to do some sort of a video just looking at kind of like, from more of like a queer theory lens with shonen media, or with Shonen Jump action manga. But it's more like I need to get more perspectives, and so like I'm waiting until I read more.
And that's right. And that's kind of the issue I talked about, where it's like we literally don't understand the language. Like there could be really important series from this time period that are relevant to this discussion that we can't even really ask about, because like who would know? Like who's read these series that aren't translated, know? Like how do we find this information? The people talking about it are talking in a different language, so it's frustrating. But yeah, anyway, I guess we could finally move on.
Yeah, I think that'll be the only time that sort of topic comes up for Yu Yu Hakusho, but
in this discussion,
there will be more positive things to say with Hunter x Hunter. And this is a discussion I'm interested in having. So like I said, the fact that we talked about it at all in, our Shonen Action Manga podcast is because that's just Togashi. He finds a way to throw it in there somehow, even if it's not always the greatest.
Yep. And I think, like I said, I think it's an interesting discussion, even coming at it from a cisgender. I'm just a fucking white ass nerd, so I'm sorry, but I still find it interesting. Because I like shonen manga. But anyway, so the next fight, he's a guy who becomes invisible, and Yusuke attacks everywhere.
It's funny, because like that first fight has so much to it, then the other two are just squashes.
That happened. Yeah, I'm done already. Then there was The three-horned demon.
Like, I almost wish that maybe... No, I probably don't. Like...
Oh, no, wait. Did they defeat the three-horned demon first? Where the fuck did he go?
No, that's right, because he gets a panel where he's like, I didn't even get to introduce myself yet, and he's already, like, down on the ground, beaten, defeated.
Oh, I forgot. I'm just skimming through, like... So yeah, so out of these 3 demons, we spent like fucking half an hour on one of them, and then the others are like 3 minutes for the other 2.
See,
Right.
I don't want to forget about it, but I know like in Volume 1, Togashi had mentioned that he had considered doing like a what was it, like a sports manga about like homosexual cross-dressers or whatever.
Yes.
And like as much as I think that would have been like just going off of what was included in Yu Yu Hakusho here, I would have been interested in seeing that, and it's a shame that it never actually got
for the same reasons.
published.
We're getting that perspective and seeing, that, like, just talking about it as something interesting, even if you don't, like, you might even hate it, but, like, at the end, it's Togashi, it's still going to be interesting to discuss, so, and again, especially within context of how it's handled Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter, so that would be interesting to exist if it did.
Mm-hmm.
Togashi, just get an artist. You can have someone else do it. You just write it. Do this thing.
Yeah, I want to know what all of Togashi's ideas are. So it'd be more interesting, like, if he did have an artist, so that way we could just get a bunch of Togashi stories. But
yeah, it is pretty. Like, yeah, it's.
I do definitely get
the
the idea of like wanting to kind of create your own thing yourself and like do it by your own hand and not because then you get like the most, I guess, direct messages that you're trying to get across. I mean, like, with a writer, you could always... Or, not a writer. With an artist, you could always just, like, make sure you talk with them and say, like, hey, I want the panel to maybe look like this or something. And, I mean, Togashi is a manga author, so he would have that perspective to be able to...
1, read Bakuman, and 2, this is already one of the longest episodes on the Nen Show. We're at over 3.5 hours.
It's funny. I almost suspect that the Dark Tournament episode won't even be this long. Because, like, this one had a lot of individual self-contained chapters.
Well, this one is, like, 4 separate arcs, right? Yeah, and Dark Tournament's going to be a lot of fights.
Yeah.
And traditionally, we have not had a lot to say about fights unless it's, like, Luffy versus Katakuri, which is literally the most interesting and my favorite fight in anything ever, for me. So it's, like... And, like, we just skimmed through, like, one fight that... Like, and the one fight that we did see, like, the fight part barely mattered.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was, like, the least interesting thing about it. So anyway, they're doing the bet, the final bet with Toguro versus Yusuke. It turns out Toguro is like in league with the gambler, so he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, like how he literally is just like, I'm gonna bet 66,200,000,000,000. That's that's the entire worth of the Japanese government. It's also your entire worth. I'm gonna bankrupt you if I win.
Yep, and then Yusuke and Kuwabara, they do some cool teamwork, friendship. Oh, there's also a bit where Kuwabara... Oh, that's what... I think this was the part with the lady, right? Or no? It did happen later. Never mind. I'm not seeing it, so maybe it's a little later. But there's a moment where Kuwabara sort of sees Yukina's memories. Like she's someone who wanted to help her and got killed. And...
Yeah, this is another one of those things, like... It feels very almost Mashima in that, like, it's a thing, like, he just gets her memories.
True, with, like, just the very malleable, like, setting rules.
And there's another moment where, like, Yusuke uses his spirit gun to... But Kuwabara explains his, like, I figured you could set it to stun or something. Because he, like, propels him as opposed to just, like, blasting through him or whatever. And it's like, oh, is that a thing he can do?
That's true. Because I guess going back to, like, comparing it to Hunter x Hunter, where Hunter x Hunter is a very constructed work, where, like, yeah, he's looser here, which allows, like, this thing where he's propelling Kuwabara, that's, with how he writes Hunter x Hunter, it's like he would have had to either include that from the beginning, like, as a possible mechanic, or, like, it wouldn't have happened, more or less. Whereas this, because he's able to be more about, like, because it's a cool little team-up thing, They beat Toguro together, friendship power, and teamwork and stuff, and it's neat. But it's only possible because of those malleable setting rules, so...
it's also only a false victory.
Yes, Toguro is merely pretending to be defeated. He was like, yeah, that was only like 50%. I don't know, 30%? I forget the exact figure. But it's not a lot.
Yeah. And this is also interesting. I'll have more to say about it, obviously, in the Dark Tournament arc. But, like, the fact that he, like, has literal percentages for his power, which is, again, me not having a whole lot of, you know, classic shonen experience, I think Dragon Ball and, like, Frieza literally, like, number percenting his powers or stuff, which is, like...
Oh, yeah, Frieza did do the same thing, or he, like, with his 3 forms.
Frieza's is even messier, because he has the transformations, but then he also, like, in his final form, has the percentages that he counts up, like, I'm only at half my power or whatever, which is like, why the transformations then? But this isn't a Dragon Ball discussion. But I think it's true. It will be interesting in the Dark Tournament arc to see, like, how Togashi integrates that. It's a very, like, tropey shonen thing, you know, the percentages and, you know, power levels, that sort of thing.
Well, because you know, this arc brings up a lot with, like, money and greed and, you know, or willing, like, you know, Toguro, like, conceding for money, you know, and, like, I don't remember how that factors into the Dark Tournament at all. Like, I mostly remembered, like, the last conflict with Toguro. So, we'll see what we have to say.
I think more like the financial, the money stuff is more focused on this arc.
Yeah, and well, it definitely sets up the humans. Like, because I think Kuwabara sees the flashback thing, and he's like, "Wow, how is Gonzo even like?"
Yeah, and he's like, "I hope you don't hate all humans or whatever," because
like, oh, that won't be relevant later. But yeah, we're basically done. So they beat Toguro. Hiei comes in to save his sister, even though he's not gonna tell her because he's I'm just a friend. And then you can like there's the hating humans bit, or please don't hate all humans because of those bad ones. And yeah, Toguro uses Gonzo's head as a soccer ball.
Yeah,
which is pretty satisfying. Very brutal.
And it's interesting thinking, like, anime will generally... I guess it depended on, like, what block Yu Yu Hakusho is in. Maybe it wasn't... I think it might have been more of
did they just do
later.
It straight?
No, yeah, they just did it straight because, I think of, like, the scene in Dragon Ball where, like, Goldo just gets his head chopped off or whatever, but in the anime, it's just, like, a beam. And it does fall off, but, like, I don't know,
See, I was thinking of actually Zabuza, where he, like...
when he does the, like, the sword, or not sword, but the teeth stabby thing.
Yes, because, in the manga, he cuts off his head. In the anime, it's not as,
Yeah, in the anime, he just pushes him off the bridge. So right. I'm guessing it must have been, like, whatever block it aired in. Like, maybe it was a more later
ages
thing.
Yes. Or it also could have been because it came out a decade earlier, like Fist of the North Star. I don't know when that aired, but it was incredibly gory, you know?
True. Yeah, it might have just been...
But it was also came out in the 80s. Let me check.
I don't know, but there are little censorship things that, like, Kurama back in the Hiei fight where he gets, like, the sword stuck through him. That's not how it's portrayed in the anime, but it's just, like, a slight little alteration.
Yeah. Also checking, Fist of the North Star aired at, it says on my list, it says 7 p.m., so evening. So kids still could have watched it, because it is a shonen series.
Okay.
But I don't know. So, I don't know, my knowledge isn't, like, I know in general, like, you don't get series that are super gory these days. Like Fist of the North Star, like, has characters exploding. I've seen a page from Saint Seiya where there's, like, his head and his upper torso is fine, and the middle is all blood and bone. Like, you see his ribs and you see his pelvic bone, and it's just, like, blood, and it's very gory. I think it's from Saint Seiya. Alright, I don't know when in Saint Seiya it is, but yeah.
Yeah,
so
the manga are generally more violent.
Quite get, yes. And you don't, and well, even older manga are generally more violent than modern manga. Like, Toriko had some of the blood and gore and stuff, but One Piece has, like, the Whitebeard getting his face blown off, but it's not as, like, common these days, I don't think.
Yeah.
But anyway, Yukina is safe. Toguro fucking shows up at the school.
Yeah. In the anime, he shows up on a motorcycle, which I just think is funny.
Okay, that's cool. I guess, I'm not sure if I had, like, I'm seeing, like Terminator, or I don't even know when that movie came out, honestly.
I think Terminator 2 came out in 1991, because I think it was referenced in...
Oh, the anime would have come out a little later, so maybe they leaned... Because, like, he does have sunglasses and a big, bulky, like, body, so maybe they, like, just decided, hey, it looks like Terminator is cool and relevant, let's reference it in the anime, so... Because it was probably... It looks like... Because if that's the case, it was just a coincidence in the manga, but... Because it's not like they're super close or anything, but anyway, Toguro basically... He wants to fight Yusuke because he for reasons that... We'll get to in the Dark Tournament, but he wants he shows off, this is 60% of my power, and if you don't show up, I'm going to kill or I'll kill you right now. So rip. Oh, and here's the page, because you get like Yusuke, he's like, oh shit, that sucks, and Toguro walks away, and then there's like the panel of Hiei and Kurama, and then there's just a panel of a random woman, but like, Togashi, what? Like, yeah, he obviously didn't know what else to put on the page, so he just like, fuck it. I don't know why he did it. It's weird. But anyway,
it's like in the Kizumonogatari films. Who's in the helicopter? But it's like, who's this mystery woman? Is she in the Dark Tournament?
Yep. And then anyway, so Toguro suggests that Hiei and Kurama join his team, but they still need a fifth. And Yusuke goes to Genkai to train. And there we go. Time passes. 2 months go by. The Dark Tournament begins next time on the Nen Show.
And I will say, because we covered it in this stretch, I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity that there's no training or anything. Like, especially comparing it to Hunter x Hunter, again, where we see a lot of, like, the basics and whatever.
Yes. Togashi in Hunter x Hunter is, like, really great. Like, I definitely want to reread it, but I do like in the training arcs.
I think it's more just the Hunter x Hunter comparisons that get me here, because I like Hunter x Hunter for how there's a lot of, like, there's breathing room between arcs. Like, there are little moments of levity, or, you know, like, characters just going places, and, you know, they have, like, little moments to breathe, and, like, the training arcs and whatever. But whereas, like, Yu Yu Hakusho, we just come off the fight with Toguro, and then immediately afterwards it's like, oh, that'll be 2 months from now, we have a Dark Tournament. Boom, 2 months have passed, let's go to the Dark Tournament.
Right. Compare that to how, like, you know, Kishimoto did the time skip, and we saw Kakashi Gaiden, so even if, like, even if you're reading the volumes, like, you still have a little bit of time passing before you actually get to, or like One Piece, there's the in the volume release, there's the sketches, and a little like Oda talking about his, like, 4-week break. So it's like, even if nothing happens, like, you could just skip it, but that's up to you. Or you could, like, spend a little bit more time and get even slightly closer to the feeling of time passing, where if you hear 2 months pass, good luck.
And so, like, the training arcs can sometimes be like, we learn some stuff about the characters and, like, how they train and how they develop their power, but that doesn't happen here, which is just a little disappointing. Nope. Like, it's not a major thing, but I remember early on when I was going through it for the first time, I was like, man, we really are just blitzing to the Dark Tournament.
Oh, did the anime do that too?
Yeah, I mean, like, the anime had a couple little scenes, but it was maybe a couple minutes. It wasn't like an episode or anything.
Gotcha. Okay. So, all right. Anyway, we are almost 4 hours in to the recording. So it's already close to literally, like, Jesus fucking Christ. It's already close to, like, the longest episode of the Nen Show, which were the end of Naruto and One Piece. I guess it's interesting because, like, we had good and bad things to say too. Whereas, like, compared to Whole Cake Island, we mostly had positive things to say. If any negative, I don't even remember. But anyway, next time we're reading the Dark Tournament, which is chapters 52 to 112, so a little bit longer than this stretch.
But it's the best tournament arc in Shounen, so obviously we'll have only positive things to say about that, right?
Yes. Yep. And yeah, like, it's I love the discussion, maybe even more than the actual reading, so... But no, it was fun. So I hope you enjoyed it, as crabby an old man as I am. So yeah, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. 2 episodes left, 3 episodes left, I have no idea. Later.